And to that piece of lieutenant that's always on his podcast, bash us, yeah.
All right, we're live.
All right, good morning, everybody. Live 8:05 Eastern Time, 5:05 for us on the West Coast over here. Good morning, Hassan. Good morning, friends, listeners, and of course, trolls. Looks like we might have some already. So let's get started, brother.
Yeah, absolutely. So we got a bunch of stuff for you today. I want to talk about the DNC sheriffs that gave a speech about Kamala Harris and how great she is and how she funded the police and how great the Democrats have been for law enforcement. But we titled the episode "Stabbings and Slashings Surge Across New York City." New York Post article came out about it, and I'll get into it a little bit. But basically, the title of it, Stabbings and Slashings Surge Across New York City, Leaving Bloody Trail of Death and Destruction by Dean Balsami. Blades are carving up the Big Apple. Stabbings and slashings across the city year spiked 6% to 3,582 incidents through August 11th, up from 3,370 during the same period last year, according to NYPD data requested by the Post. So far this year, 60 people have died by the blade, an 11% surge from 54 in 2023. Eric, just before I go further, what are your thoughts on that?
So what I'm curious about when it comes to the actual crime numbers with this particular increase is if they're all actually getting reported. Because just like we saw with the illegal military age males, especially the youth military age illegal aliens at 17 years old and 11 years old that committed a robbery, it was documented as a juvenile report. So we have an actual documented increase, we're saying, of 11%. What I'm curious, though, is what was actually documented, because clearly we see on a daily basis, we hear stabbings, we hear of people getting struck with blunt objects. So I would think that this is actually far worse than the actual data reflects on this particular part that you just indicated.
Yeah, I mean, would you think that the border has played a role in this, or is this just regular level crime, open border and surge of gangs, Tren de Aragua, or is this just normal level crimes? What do you think? Do you think border
Absolutely
weighs in at all?
Absolutely, I think the illegal military age males, this illegal alien crisis, not the migrant crisis, illegal alien crisis in New York City has a pure, definite impact on crime. According to Mayor Eric Adams, we've heard recently, it's not a crime problem. It's a migrant problem. But this is a crime problem. Unlike he likes to gaslight the public, this is all connected. Absolutely.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, and it flies in the face of the crime is down narrative, right? Oh, violent crime's down. Oh, shootings and murders are down. Like, are shootings and murders really down? All less people carrying guns? All less people are people afraid to commit crime? It doesn't seem that way. There's no reason for so much crime to go on. Alton Scott, a veteran MTA conductor who needed 34 stitches to close a gruesome neck wound after being slashed in March, told the Post. His attacker remains on the loose. May 17th, 17-year-old Sarah Rivera was killed in a stabbing outside Queens subway station during a tragic dispute with a friend, acquaintances and relatives said. Blade bloodshed attacks 3,370 in 2023, 2024 3,582, up 6%. So you're getting more attacks and then murders. 60 murders in 2024. It's up 11% from 2023. I mean, those numbers, for people that brag about they're doing crime, and for the Newsmax anchor, again, just to harp on that, to say you guys are killing it and showing the world that Democrat cities could partake in public safety. I mean, this is a slap in the face. This is disgusting. It's honestly hard to read and then think about John Schell or Kaz Daughtry cheerleading about how great they're doing.
Can you scroll back down to those actual numbers that you just showed, that you displayed from 2023 in comparison to 2024? So the reason why I wanted you to scroll back to this, I would like to take a look at some point, maybe Sam Antar has it or we can dig it up, is what is the increase from 2024 in comparison to 2022. What is the 2-year increase? So we could actually see the inception of Mayor Eric Adams' office and their crime plan to actually take a look at what's going on here. Because I'm sure it's a far more increase than we see here, probably even double. Because it's interesting, we spoke about this yesterday, and how they gaslight the public and how they could actually say that the increase is not that high. It's just as I said yesterday, if I gained 100 pounds this year, and then in the next 3 months, I celebrate that I lost 20 pounds. Did I really lose 20 pounds? No, I still gained 80 pounds. So if we see a 6% increase here from 2023 to 2024 in attacks, what is the 2-year increase? And I'm sure it's far greater than that, just to show what's going on in this actual administration and what's going on in New York City under these dire times, under this failed leadership that we have right now.
So we like to bring up our trolls too, because unlike John Shell and Kaz Daughtry and the rest of the NYPD, we don't block comments. We allow free speech, free thought, and free thinking.
Or delete them.
Or delete them. Yeah, we don't delete them either. Oh, by the way, the Noble Society, whose president, Deputy Chief Victoria Perry, she blocked her. You can't go on and read their tweets anymore after they came out and called us racist. So. All right, let's go further with this article. So Rivera was allegedly drinking with pals in a park near 46th Street in Sunnyside around 9:30 p.m. when she got into a fatal argument with a 15-year-old acquaintance and was stabbed in the neck. The unnamed assailant is in custody. There's no value for life, Sarah's dad, Eric Rivera, told the Post this week. He called the surge in stabbings disturbing and teen-on-teen crime a pandemic. I want justice, he said of his daughter's killer, to the full extent of the law. I don't see any remorse. After stabbing surged due to a dramatic rise in violent and gang crimes, unpredictably emotionally disturbed individuals roaming the street, and an influx of migrants who engage in disorderly conduct, robberies, and pop-up disputes, Michael Alcazar, who was a former guest on the show, retired NYPD detective, and John Jay, college adjunct professor, told the Post. In February, a 17-year-old migrant was stabbed during a wild brawl involving dozens of people, including other migrants in Times Square. As the NYPD intensifies its crackdown on gun possession, perpetrators have resorted to carrying knives instead. Mike, I don't agree. I think that absolutely more people today are carrying guns than at any point in history in New York City.
So what's interesting to note about this is the comparison that we just spoke about earlier. Several minutes ago, we spoke about a 17-year-old and 11-year-old that had committed a robbery. They were illegal military-aged alien males that committed robbery. It was documented as a Juvenile Report. So here again, we have youths committing fatal attacks, committing murder. Is that being documented properly also? Are those juveniles being struck with the charges that they should be hit with accordance with the law? Unfortunately, we have to question that. What's the best prediction of what's going on as a reflection of the past? So a reflection of the past shows that these juveniles are not being documented properly. And what's interesting about that, John, of course, the New York City Council is in opposition to any gang database held by New York City for informational purposes. And the irony to that is these youths would not be on that gang database anyway, because in order to be on that gang database, you would have to be 18 years old. So these youths that they're trying to protect would not be on that gang database anyway, according to New York City policy as we speak.
Alcazar's John Jay colleague, Dave Sarney, a retired NYPD detective, noted that more people are carrying knives for protection, while the bad guys know the blade can do the dirty work without drawing as much attention or jail time as a gun. You can get knives anywhere. I've seen people who have gotten slashed and don't even realize they're slashed until they're a block away, so he said. 27-year-old vet said social media has added to the fuel of fire as teens settle nonsensical beefs with weapons. There's no de-escalation. These kids aren't learning social skills, he said, anymore. Sarney said the woke city council is not helping matters. I've watched the city council hearings and I'm not impressed with the act. They seem to be more in the I gotcha moment with the police department as opposed to what we can do to stem the tide of violence within our neighborhood. What can we do to deal with students? In June, a 39-year-old man was stabbed in the neck inside Milo Coffee Shop in Manhattan, leading heroic customers and staff to fight off his ruthless attackers. The victim survived. Wanda, a worker at Amsterdam Avenue Java joint at 181st Street, blamed the mentally ill and the migrant surge. They don't have jobs. They want money. They get in trouble. She added, We are seeing things we never saw before. Taking phones from people, taking jewelry. You're not even safe at work. The NYPD said arrests for stabbings and slashings are also up 11% this year, 2,668 compared to 2023, where it was 2,411. And that's all they ever have.
You know, Mike Alcazar, great guy who was on the show, and Dave Sarney, I do know the name within the police department. I appreciate their comments, but I don't totally agree. I understand that, you know, we had legislation change. I think it was 2017 or 2018 when legislation changed and actually legalized the possession and carrying of a gravity knife and other types of knives. But I don't think that's the reason why these youths are carrying knives more often than they're carrying firearms. I think if it's more of an economical thing of them just getting their hands on the firearms because of financial reasons. I don't think it makes a difference if they're carrying a knife or they're carrying a gun. I don't think that they're going to face different arm of justice, whether they actually use a firearm or a gun. Arguably, I think there's more firearms out there now than there was many years ago. When we knew that most people would face up to 3 years in jail for carrying a firearm. So I do appreciate their insight, but I don't think that these youths, for the most part, are aware that these knives are a capacity that you could actually carry in accordance with the law. So I just think that I think it's more of an economical thing of getting their hands on these firearms.
I agree. I don't think that you could even correlate this to less people carrying guns, because I think, you know, when they say shootings are down, they're not talking about the number of times a trigger was pulled. They're talking about how many people were shot. They're not talking about how many people used a gun to commit robbery. They're only talking about how many people were shot. So that, you know, those numbers are already wrong. They're already jaded. They're already off. You know, I do think there is something in society, though, you know, where there's a lack of masculinity in New York City. And I will say, like, they're like thinking of what the father, and my heart goes out to him, you know, thinking of what he said, where he said, you know, there's a lot of violence, like this crazy violence amongst our youth. And when I see all these videos, what do you see? You see tons of people beating one person up, right? You never see a one-on-one fist fight anymore. And I think that stems from the lack of fatherhood in the home. You know, my father always taught me, you don't jump anyone, you don't be a coward, you fight. And if you have a problem with someone, you fight in a one-on-one fight. You got to be a man. You don't be a little savage and sneak up and hit people from behind. He goes, if you're a tough guy, fight them like a tough guy. And I think, you know, when we were growing up, you saw a lot of fights. I mean, I remember fights vividly where people pulled out knives and that was it. The fight was over. You lost, you're scared. And everyone, the whole crowd was like, you're put the knife down, fight him like a man, put the knife down, you know, and that's it. Fight's over, you know, and nobody would let anyone use that knife. Like, you know, so I think a lot of it has to do with the lack of fatherhood that's going on in society and the lack of masculinity in New York City, where you're seeing kids resort to weapons such as knives, and you're seeing them brutally attack people in packs. Like, and I'm sorry, that's the most cowardly thing you could do. Is you and your friends are going to beat up one person. You're a coward. You're a complete coward. You can't stand on your own 2 feet. You're not a man, in my opinion.
We talk about masculinity quite often on this podcast. John and I both feel that law enforcement has been completely emasculated, but overall, just the American male has been emasculated in this entire country. Just, you know, as kids are growing up with this whole ideology of toxic masculinity. So I believe that actually this whole idea that of men showing their emotion and men need to cry and all this stuff really has weakened the male. Do men cry? Of course they do, right? You cry behind closed doors. You cry with your wife. You cry with your family on certain things. But do we cry over every little thing? No. And I think that men should not be emotional to the point where people want them to be. I think that emotional men are dangerous men, just like we see with Kaz Daughtry and John Shell. They're letting their emotions get the best of them. And I think when you allow your emotions to get in front of you, I think you become a dangerous man. And that's why I think by John Shell and Cass Daughtry, I think that they're allowing their emotions overshadow their decisions. And that's why they're acting stupidly and they're acting childish. And they're targeting this podcast because they allowed their emotions to take hold of them and they can't see between that and see above that. And I think that when you're stoic, that's where you show true strength. And that's when you sit back and you emotionally detach yourself from situations and you think about things. And that's true masculinity and that's true strength. And that's my opinion on that. What do you think about that?
I mean, 100%. I mean, I look at my father, his father died when he was 9 years old. I don't really know the circumstances surrounding that. He never really spoke about it. He grew up in the projects in the Lower East Side. His mother suffered from wild mental illness. He was pulling her out of bars and things like that when he was just a young boy. Like, she had a lot of mental issues, my father. He then went to Vietnam. He enlisted. He went to Vietnam. He fought in Vietnam. He served 2 tours in combat, came back here, had a terrible time getting a job, had terrible PTSD. And the man never complained, not to me once. He never was looking for sympathy from anyone. He stood on his own 2 feet, and there was a long time where he was like, he struggled financially. Like my family struggled financially. And I would have never known it, dude. Like I now looking back as a man, I'm like, wow, how the hell did they do that? How the hell did my parents get through that? How are they tougher than me? How am I complaining about my situation? I got 20 or 30 times the amount of things that they have and the amount of money that they've ever had, and my father never said a word about any of it to me. Nothing. He never complained one time. He just taught me how to be a man. That's it. And that was a big thing with him, is like being a man, is like, you got to stand up on your own 2 feet. You don't need anybody. You don't want to owe anybody anything. You don't want to run in packs. You don't want to be subjective to a crowd. You want to be your own individual, and you got to do the things that are right, So like, I think 100%, and he taught me not to be a little bitch about things too. Honestly, he really did, not to hold on to things. You just tell me, what are you worried about? What are you worried about? What do you care? What do you care about these people? What do you care? Who are they to you? Who are they to you? If something happened at school or whatever, people making fun of me, or I was always under attack. People pranking my house, things of that. I would get all frustrated. Why can't they just say who they are? Tell me. And my father would be like, what are you getting mad about? These people are trying to get a rise out of you. What do you care? They're losers. He's like, they're sitting home, they're calling you, they're scared, and they're prank calling you. What do you get mad about? You should take it as a compliment.
Speaking of little bitches, Juju 10452 says, these guys think people are after them. LOL, LOL. Nobody cares about your small podcast. You just solidified that everybody is after us. Thank you. And good morning, Marlon. He says, spot on, Eric. I appreciate it, brother. Marlon, you're a good friend. Thank you so much. Yeah. Listen, a man needs to be a protector. And I believe that, I served in combat and, I was in the Marines and law enforcement. But I feel that these things are important in your life and they're contributing factors. But you and I were talking about this the other day, and I think that you're not a real man until you become a protector. And for the most part, the easiest way to identify that you're a protector is that you have a family. You have a wife to protect, kids, people that depend on you. And if you don't have a family as a man, at least someone who depends on you. Maybe if you're taking care of a father, if you're taking care of your mother who's got a bit sick, or you're taking care of a nephew, or when you're in a position that you take care of someone else and they depend on you, I think that's where you really become a true man and a true protector. And I think that's how we should evaluate men, is their ability to protect and provide. And I think that's the ultimate litmus test of the caliber of a man.
I agree. I mean, I think it's a sense of service, a sense of duty. I don't necessarily think you need kids for it. Kids just are like, for me, like kids, like it just completely changed me. Like totally. Like I did like a little 100, I did a 180, like almost overnight, I went from not caring about anything to like being afraid of everything. I was like, what is going on with me?
So kids are not for everybody. That's why I said, for some people, it may not be having kids. Maybe you're taking care of a sick mother or sick father, but somebody.
A sense of duty. Or a sense of duty. Like you have a sense of obligation to your community, to a cause, to an organization. Like you have a sense of duty. Like you're a man. Like you put something before yourself. You put others and things before yourself. I agree with you. And I think that's the bigger problem when they look at the root causes of things. They talk about the root. Oh, we want to look at the root cause of crime. I mean, we need to look at masculinity. We need to look at fatherless homes. We need to look at that. I mean, it's important to have men around you. It is. It's important, especially men to raise other men and women. In the same way we need women, we need men. You know, it's like we, you know, everyone, you know, and this whole feminist movement. I'm like, yeah, it's great. We need women. We need men too. Like,
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with being a man. You know, there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. You know, so
No,
like,
I think it's beautiful. I think the balance, you know, of a woman and a man together when they have kids, I think it's a yin and yang. It's amazing. You know, and they balance each other out. The different traits and the different responses. You know, most women, and I say most, but not all, most women respond emotionally invested into situations where the men won't. You know, I think, you know, it's like, you know, when women talk, they're like, it's like an endless information highway. You know, they like to talk about things and just that's the way that women communicate. And men, I think when they talk about things, it's more like they're getting off the highway. You know, they want to exit. They just want to talk about something and have a destination. And that's where we have a good balance. And, you know, if that makes any sense.
no, dude, it's just that's what's going on. Is like, and you're getting wild packs of thugs beating people up. You know, a few years back, pre-COVID, I went out to Manhattan. I was with one of my friends. He's pretty big. He's a big kid. He's about 6 feet tall. He's very muscular. Not like juice bag muscular, like athletic muscular. Like, he's a big dude. And then my other friend, who's like a little shorter than me and about the same stature as me. So we're not big dudes at all. You know, like, we're not huge. We're not like, you know, when you're walking in, there's people that are towering above us, you know. But a pack of Dominican kids, I assume that they're from up in Harlem. We're in Midtown. They're literally walking down the block and beating the fuck out of everybody that's coming. So I was like, oh shit. I was like, yo, get ready. Look at these motherfuckers. So we literally started to square off, pack of like 7 or 8 kids. What do? They fucking walk in the street and they walk around us. I was like, yeah, that's what I thought, motherfucker. They walk up. There's 2 gay guys standing on the corner. One of them has his foot up against the wall. One of the kids walks up to him, right in the face, knocks the kid out. We're like, you motherfucker. We start chasing him. Thankfully, the police get in and get them, and then I just leave. We just leave. But like, you need men in this world. You need men in this world. Those people needed to be stopped instantly. And if we're gonna go there and be like, oh, we're gonna get there and de-escalate the situation, no. The de-escalation at that point is cops get there. Use force right away. Your hands on right away in that minute. People are getting thrown on the floor. People are getting beat up. These kids are violent thugs going out, assaulting people for absolutely no reason. And then when they saw people that could give them this much of a fight, they walked on the street like cowards, you know. And that's what corrects society, and that's what we lost in the police department in New York City. That's what we lost. We lost those strong neighborhoods where if there was a bunch of kids outside, the men would come out and be like, get your fucking asses out here. Or make the two that had the problem fight a one-on-one fight. You can be a man. Be a man. Don't be a little girl. Fight a one-on-one fight. Let's go.
Yeah, it's funny. I got a funny story, though. You just mentioned 2 gay guys. And just what's funny is one time I remember I was working in the Lower East Side. I was working in PSA 4. I was a crime sergeant. And we actually covered, anybody who's listening knows that area. We covered the West Side also in the 10th precinct, the Chelsea projects. So I'll never forget. Actually, I don't want to mention the guy's name, but one of the cops responded. They had a job at this particular location, and he was a big. I don't know if it was a big black dude, really strong, nice guy, man, great cop. He was a big, strong guy, and I'll never forget. He called an 85, and I'm like, wow, if this guy called an 85, he was a big, strong, a nice guy, man. I'm like, it must be pretty big. It must be a big deal. So never forget, we respond to his apartment, right? And we hear like, banging around. So we open the door, I'll never forget, and I see these 2 monsters, bro. They were humongous, huge. And once they started speaking, I mean, they sounded like women. And I'm not trying to make fun of them, but they were monsters. They were huge. It's, oh my God. We had our work put out for us. And sure enough, after we got these 2 guys in cuffs, turned out it was domestic between this gay couple, and they were humongous. They were all jacked up, and there were steroids all over the apartment. We ended up doing a search warrant. There was so much steroids, but these guys were humongous. They were huge. And I'll never forget, I said, wow, you can't sleep on anybody. They were gigantic. But I never forget, it was a big dude, man. He's like, I got thrown around here. But it was wild. It was a wild time. Anyway, I want to reflect on what Dubai LES said. I think there's definitely some teeth to it, what he just said. I agree. But it goes back to what you said, John. The father figure, that male figure, is so important for this reason. Dubai LES says the main problem with our youth is that they really don't have any skills with conflict resolution. I agree. Their raw emotion gets the best of them to overreact, usually negatively and violently. And those things are all true. That's why it's so important to have that male figure, that protector, to protect you, but also to put you in your place and to keep you in check, to learn from somebody. I think that's a great point.
No, I think it shows, so like I think I talk about Shell more than I talk about Kaz, and I think it's because Shell actually has supervisory experience. So he should have like worked all of these issues that he has, like with slandering people, out in his own head. But like Kaz was never a supervisor. So to me, it's like he's a rookie. Like he's just learning all of this stuff now, and I think everything in life is learned. The ability to handle adversity, the ability to not overreact in instances, the ability to keep your emotions calm in high adrenaline situations. These aren't things that you're just born with. These are things, your ability to debate. These aren't born skills. They're learned skills. They're skills that are developed over time. Unfortunately, John Shell has proven that his character isn't one that could be trusted over time. I mean, I just listened to the Sal Greco show, his latest show, and he did a report on Dana Rachlan. And Dana was a community advocate, and, she was by someone who I would consider a police critic, a different type of police critic than me and Eric. She was, a lot of things that she said I didn't agree with, but she talked about how she was smeared, how she was threatened, and how John Shell and Kaz Daughtry spearheaded the campaign, not only throughout the NYPD, but throughout all of the community circles. I think if for you guys that want to see like exactly what these individuals do, I mean, she was a victim of an alleged sexual assault, and they smeared her throughout the entire community, saying she was trying to get an innocent black man arrested when they botched a control call, Jeffrey Madry and Kaz Daughtry. So definitely check that out. But I mean, what you see there is like, that's a learned behavior, right? Like we said, like it's a pattern. You see a clear pattern emerging of smear campaigns. There's a smear campaign against this podcast. There's a smear campaign against reporters. There's a smear campaign against Dana. There's a smear campaign against the sergeant who's accusing Timothy Pearson of sexual assault. There's a smear campaign against Sal Greco. You see the constant smear. So that's learned too. But the ability for them actually to stand up, John Shell's learning it now, like we showed you yesterday with the tweets. He's learning how to actually kind of debate in the social media realm. I don't think it's without emotion, though, unfortunately.
You're right. And that's why, listen, and at the same token, if we have provided assistance and help to John Shell to make him better and to start to become stoic while he's tweeting, of course, while he's sober, then I'm proud that we're actually making things better for the police department. Because if he acts stoic and professional, and if he can improve his behavior, which he should immediately on social media, it's only beneficial to the police department and the rank and file. Because ultimately, who suffers by the unprofessionalism from the leadership of the NYPD? The rank and file. And if the rank and file thinks that they don't suffer by the unprofessionalism that's on social media from the upper echelon of the police department, they're sadly mistaken. You are definitely, if anyone that's on this right now, if you are active rank and file, you are completely affected by their unprofessionalism when it comes to, for instance, the way that you're treated from the media. If the rank and file is involved in a situation, if there's any benefit of the doubt that the journalist, maybe from the New York Post or the Daily News, or someone like Harry Siegel, who's faced extreme opposition from the police department, if there's any benefit of doubt that they can provide to you, They may not give it to you because of the way they've been treated from the upper echelon. So you're completely affected by it. Absolutely. AJ puts here, just want to say thank you, brother. And Juju, so you're a loser. I get it, that's your opinion, but I wouldn't waste my time listening when I could be more productive with my time. You're listening so you can report what you hear to whom. AJ, thank you, brother. It's exactly what's going on. Either report to whom or if this is actually from the horse's mouth.
Yeah, so Chris Celion says there is a very low level of respect from the youth as well as people our age, disrespectful society. And again, I think that that's a learned behavior as well, right? Like my father taught me hold the door for women, let women walk in front of you, never let women walk on the side of the street where the cars are, right? These are all things that myself as a 44-year-old man do till today, and I've done my whole life after being taught them. But if you were never taught them, or how do you instill that in yourself? How do you instill that, well, if me and my friends just walk up and just start beating the shit out of one kid, that we're actually cowards, and that's not what men should do, right? That's not a civil society. That's not what men should do. We're more like a wild pack of cowards, and so like these things are all learned behavior, and that's what you're seeing. You're seeing a lack of respect for the elderly because it was never instilled in these kids from birth to respect their elders. And like that's a learned behavior. And, we put a lot of weight on police officers today, one, because the schools failed them, but like, it's not the school's job either. I mean, the schools should help instill these values, but the schools should have more interaction with the youth than the police do. But today we're not seeing that, we're not seeing any reinforcement from home. And that's kind of what's happening, and that's what's happening. We're losing society. And at the same time, we have these politically appointed people who, by all means are of low integrity in law enforcement, running local police departments, and they're lying. They're lying to everybody, So this comes out from Sam Antar. We'll get into this in a minute after we get our thoughts, but this is the break-in, the current year-to-date stats on violent crime, week 34, 2024, and how the FBI underreported crime in New York City starting in 2023.
James LaFranco says there is no respect for anyone anymore. And the father figure is a very important part of that. Absolutely. That's what we've been saying, brother. We're with you, man. Absolutely. James LaFranco, been a friend to the podcast, listening pretty much on a daily basis. Thank you for being with us. Your comments are great. He always weighs in. I agree. The father figure is a huge pinnacle point to the life of a youth. John, when you talk about things, you always reflect on your father, and I do the same because these are people that we idolized, that we looked up to and said, okay, well, I need to be like this person. Did I, and I'll say for myself, even with a father figure, did I make mistakes when I was young? Absolutely. We grow over time. When I was young, I would say when I was about 17, 18 years old, I thought that to show my prowess, if someone started a fight with me, immediately I met them with resistance. And I thought that was how you show prowess. But you learn over the years, especially at 44, I learned to show true strength. That if someone initiated something with me, I would talk to them. I would put my arm around them and try to keep them calm. And that's true prowess, is to be able to emotionally detach yourself to something and to talk your way and to remain calm. But over the years, you learn these things. And I also learned, at this point, at my age, that I'm comfortable in myself. And that if someone, wants to start a fight with me, that I'm pretty comfortable knowing in my head, I could probably choke this person out and take care of them. So I don't have to fight. But you learn these things over time. And even if someone can overpower me, I say to myself, well, they, if they did have to fight with me, they wouldn't want to fight again. So, but you learn these things over time to be stoic. And hey, let's get right into it. Sam Antar has been, he's been great job. He's got his finger on the pulse. I mean, this is a guy that knows numbers, and he does it in a very comic way. So if anybody has not had a chance yet, follow Sam Antar on X, and you will not be disappointed.
Yeah, also former guest on this podcast. That was a pretty interesting podcast. Guys, we got 188 people in here. If you guys could do me a favor and just like and subscribe wherever you are. If you could also share it out if you're on X or anything that's capable of sharing, appreciate it. I'd like to get some more people in here, and happy to be here with you guys this morning. Let's go into the crime stats. So this comes out yesterday. Sam puts this out, and he actually did put John Schell on his heels, and John Schell had to walk back a lot of what he said because he realizes that the lie could only last so long. You don't have to argue the truth, right? We're not arguing the truth. We're stating it. And now you see John Schell backpedaling. Oh, I didn't say that. Oh, no. You misunderstood me. So here we go. Violent major felonies, 2024 versus 2023, is up 4.1% during John Schell's tenure as NYPD Chief of Patrol. Violent major felonies, 2024 versus 2021. Up 32% during Eric Adams' tenure as mayor. Violent major felonies, 2024 versus 2019, up 33.2% since the year before the pandemic bail reform and discovery reform. Under Eric Adams, New York City mayor, and John Schell's NYPD Chief of Patrol tenure, New York safety has declined compared to pre-COVID time, to the start of their prospective terms and the previous year. Source: NYPD, uses the NYPD's own numbers. So now he talks about the NYPD versus FBI data. But before we get into that, Eric, what are your thoughts on the crime numbers?
Well, that's why I said you have to watch Sam Antar. I think he does a beautiful job of reflecting on the gaslighting by this administration, and he does it with using their own data. It's factual data that he puts right back and ping-pongs it right back to them. And what he's done is solidified exactly what John, I tell you from this podcast, is that this administration manipulates statistics to give you a fake ideology that crime is down. Well, it's semantics, right? Are they lying when they tell you crime is down? In some ways, you could say no. But for them to tell you that overall crime is down in comparison to the years prior, it's a complete lie. They're down for a period, but when you actually look at the numbers, they're not down. I go back to what I said. If you lost 100 pounds for 2023 up to January 2024, January 24 comes and we evaluate to March of 2024. We say, oh, I lost 20 pounds. Are you 20 pounds lighter? Yes, there is a crime decrease of this portion for 20 pounds. I'm sorry, you lost 20 pounds during this portion here. But really, you're still up 80 pounds. That's what they're not telling the public. So you say, yes, we have a crime increase of 34%. We've managed to get it down 7% during these 2 weeks, and we are still up this amount. This is how we're trying to do it. Here is our plan. That would be a truthful statement. That would be a better look for them. And what Sam Antar has done is exposed the manipulation to statistics and the semantics that John Schell plays along with the rest of the police department under the behest of Mayor Eric Adams.
Yeah, because the thing is what you're saying, Eric, is that like you need integrity and you need a spine to tell the truth. And what they consistently do in this administration is they play, oh, we're just going to bend it a little. This isn't Comstat, man. You want to play games in Comstat. You want to say how great of a job you're doing. That's one thing. But to go out to the public and blatantly lie, violent crime's been down 3 years in a row. No, it hasn't. Crime's been down 3 years in a row. No, it hasn't. Oh, violent crime's down, though. No, it isn't. It's up 32%. Everyone's telling you they're afraid. People, it's telling me, I'm afraid to leave my house. I'm afraid to ride the train. I live in fear going to the city every day. What? You're going to blame the podcast that just analyzes news articles and opinions? Or you're going to blame the news for reporting the data? Like, what are you blaming it? What do you blame yourself? And I don't even blame the New York City Police Department at all. I don't think we've ever sat here and said this thing that John Schell implemented is the reason public safety, is the reason crime rose. Not one of us have ever said that. The one thing I'll say that they helped emasculate the police department with was when they signed off, when Ed Caban, the not real police commissioner, but he put his name on it because Kaz Daughtry is the real police commissioner. Let's just clarify that right now. Kaz Daughtry is the police commissioner in the NYPD. But Ed Caban and New York City Mayor Eric Adams signed off on the protest settlement agreement. That was horrific. Other than that, and them hanging out with Alvin Bragg and telling everyone how he's a partner of theirs, and then claiming that somehow Eric Adams' public safety strategy is the strategy that's going to work. Other than them lying to you in the public, we've never ever said that anything that they're doing is the reason for the crime rise. It's the crime rise is blamed solely on politics, politically created crisis. So I think that's one thing that they consistently come after this podcast about and try to say that we're attacking the rank and file of the NYPD when we're not even attacking them on the crime stats. We're just saying they're lying because they're lying.
You're right. It comes down to credibility and integrity, ultimately, and being able to actually face the public in transparency and tell them the truth. Hey, listen, we were handed a police department under Mayor Eric Adams that was already diminished. If John Schell and Kaz Daughtry were true leaders for the rank and file and not for themselves, then we would say, unfortunately, we were also handed a police department that was under severe duress. We lost almost 5,000 New York City workers with a substantial amount of police officers that did
probably
not
just in cops alone, dude.
Was just in cops alone.
Yeah,
because of the failed policy under New York Mayor Eric Adams to continue the vaccine mandate that was administered by Mayor Bill de Blasio. But they would never say that. That would be a truthful statement. And they would not say that. That would be a truthful statement to actually protect their rank and file in a pure form of leadership. But they didn't do that. And they could say now that going forward with a diminished police department, with bail reform and this other legislation that has really created hurdles, the battles we have with the DA, this is our plan moving forward. We are up so much in crime. We've managed to pull it down 7% for this period. Here are the plans that we're trying to move forward. That would be an honest conversation. But to just blatantly lie to the public is completely misleading. And not only that, you make people ask themselves, wait a minute, I see all this stuff going on. Are my eyes playing tricks on me because the police department has provided me with other information? And that's just completely insulting. And all this is about is their own self-serving careers and for Mayor Eric Adams to find himself with another tenure as the mayor. And that's the problem with the leadership here. It's failed leadership. It's failed leadership because they're willing to play pretend, lie to the public to serve themselves. And that's why, John, I think it's really important, if anyone has an opportunity to watch the video where John puts out, of course, it's kind of funny at the same time. I think it's cool. He's in his tank top, he's working out, but he's telling you a story about Jonah. And that story, Jonah, really reflects on John Schell and other leadership of the police department, because they have to play pretend and they have to look themselves in the mirror at home and ask themselves, can they continue to live a lie?
Yeah, so Dubai says, gentlemen, there are two flashpoints with those numbers. One is obviously the 2020 riots and lack thereof any prosecution for those crimes. Honestly, Dubai, I think that you can't even narrow it down on two things. This has been the perfect storm of the attack on law enforcement. You could bring it all the way back to the Obama administration 2008 when the demonization of law enforcement started, then through the Michael Brown incident, the Eric Gardner incident, the George Floyd incident, and you could work your way all the way up to what's going on. And then you look at the COVID mandates that stripped NYPD, removed thousands of NYPD officers out of their profession. So we lost thousands at that time. You saw the empowerment of the CCRB throughout the years, which demonized proactive police work, the decriminalization of so many laws, which gave away vital tools into fighting crime and to reducing major crime. And then you go up through the bail reform, through the discovery reform, and through the constant continued assault on law enforcement, even when our own leadership is doing things to say, oh, yeah, no, we're going to respond to this riot, but we're just going to put people that are having friendly community affairs shirts there first. Then if you guys really don't listen at that point, then we'll send uniformed cops in there, but they won't have batons or helmets. And then if you guys get really crazy, then we'll call in the SRG. But that's only in a really bad circumstance that will bring that in. So like I honestly, we should list it out, but I honestly think it would be over 100 things, probably even more, that have brought New York City and the rest of these blue states to where they are. And then, we talk about the open borders. We talk about the free flow of gangs into our city, the free flow of fentanyl into major cities. And now we're seeing the influx of third world crime that we've never experienced before. So it's really so much. And I always laugh when I put on the news, and it's so funny to me that like after John Shell badmouthed me to every news producer that I don't go on anymore. And I don't even care, because I truly, I don't even like doing those 60-second hits or one, because I can never elaborate. And I'm always sitting there with someone, and the only thing they ever talk about is bill reform. It's bill reform. And I'm like, did someone, what about bail reform? Explain bail reform to me. I always want to just be like, explain bail reform to me. Explain to me why it created all of this. And if we remove bail reform tomorrow, is it gonna vacuum everything out and crime's gonna go back down? No. But like, so I think like we really got to start narrowing it out. And I think that's probably a good project. Maybe that's something else we could work on, is like labeling out everything that law enforcement faces. And why there's been a rise in crime, and why there's been an emasculation of law enforcement. And again, I could sit here and poke at the progressives all day long. And I don't even like to call them progressives. They really are Marxist communists. But I can poke at them all day long. But none of their plans would ever take hold if not for the people who are aligning with them for their own personal gain.
Hey, shout out to Joe Mango. Thank you for the compliment. I think you upset Juju 10452. Hey, Juju, just want to tell you, in regards to your comment, Juju said that if you and I became police commissioners, that was a comment. That was a comment that we got from Joe Mango, that he or she would move out of the country. So, Juju, don't waste your time. Move out of the country right now, anytime. It's no problem. But yeah, listen, I totally agree with you. I've used this ideology and this analogy before, and I'll use it again. I think that what's going on with New York City right now, it's like playing Jenga. Anybody remembers playing Jenga? You have to take the piece out and put it back in, and you have to try to keep that tower afloat and keep it steady. And that's what's going on in New York City right now. We got a piece of legislation they take out or add, and you got to put those pieces together and keep the city going and keep that tower steady. That's the job of the New York City Police Department, while they're taking these pieces out and making it unstable, and you have to give the illusion that that tower is still standing. And that's the hurdle of a New York City police officer. That's how hard it is to be a police officer, that you go out there and try to do your job, but yet the tower is actually falling, and you're supposed to hold it up at the same time while maintaining the city as if it was before, as if you had the proper legislation to support that you're supposed to have, but you just don't. And it's and this is the burden, and this is the problem with the leadership right now, is they're not representing the rank and file, they're representing themselves. I say this time and time again. True leadership is when you put others before you put yourself. Just as we talk about the masculine men, putting others before you put yourself, that's a true protector. And that's what we need. A leader and a father is kind of the same thing, right? A father is a leader to his family. He's a leader to his children. And when you're in a leadership position, just like John Shell or Kaz Daughtry, you're supposed to be a father to that rank and file. We're not talking about age-wise, but a father figure, someone that leads them, protects them. But are you protecting them when you're not telling the public the truth? When you're not telling the truth of what the rank and file is actually faced with? That when they're going, I laugh all the time, John, you say it because it's funny. When you talk about them having to de-escalate with this whole Care Bear ideology, when they go to a protest, is exactly what's happening. They have to go there as a soft target at a protest settlement. They're walking into a riot where people are arming themselves with weapons, and they're prepared for violence. And the police department's walking there gingerly because of a protest settlement that was signed off by the most insignificant police commissioner, Ed Caban himself. Which is why Mayor Eric Adams put him there as a useful idiot to do his bidding, because clearly Mayor Eric Adams, that's what he wants. He wants that protest settlement. If he didn't, he would put someone that would stand there and say, no, I'm not signing this. This is not how we can move forward. They just completely lie and gaslight the public, and ultimately they gaslight their rank and file. And the rank and file is ultimately who pays the price for failed leadership. And that's why I'm disgusted to see this, because we stand up for the rank and file more than anybody else from this force in retirement. People want to make fun of us, want to get trolled. That's no problem. We're not going to stop. We're going to continue to do what we do in this path.
100%. And then Sam Antar goes on to label out why the FBI data and the NYPD data is off. So the FBI crime data, which was always like considered the credible source of crime data, right? Because they don't really have any political gain to report crime data in a city, but they can only get what they're given, right? So here it goes. When analyzing crime statistics, it's essential to delve deeper than the initial figures. Take New York City, the largest city in the United States, which accounts for 37% of the population in the FBI's major city crime stats. According to the FBI's 2023 full year report, and now we're 7 months past, 8, right? We're 8 months past the 2023. So the data should be up to date at this point. I mean, it's basically almost a year at this point. There was a 10.6% reduction in violent crime, including murder, rape, robbery, and aggravated assaults in cities with populations exceeding 1 million, with New York City reportedly experiencing a 12.4% decline. So the FBI is saying that violent crime's down 12.4% in New York City. However, data from New York City itself presents a contrasting narrative, indicating a 2.4% increase in violent crimes. This variance implies that the FBI's data failed to capture at least 9,000 violent events in New York City for that year. While New York City murder rates aligned with the FBI's uniform crime reporting data from 2000 to 2022, which is when Eric Adams took over, there was a significant discrepancy in 2023 and the following year's first quarter, with the FBI's murder statistics being 13.6% and 43.9% lower than New York City's actual figures, even though the definition of murder remained the same. Despite New York City employing different criteria for other violent crimes, the pattern from 2001 to 2022 was consistent. These major inconsistencies call into question the accuracy of the FBI's reported crime rates. Now, does it call that into question, or does it call into question what the NYPD is reporting to the FBI?
Absolutely. It definitely calls into question who's auditing the data from the NYPD to the pathway to the FBI. How are they reporting this? And we can clearly see there's definitely an intentional error, not an accident, not a mistake, because this happened last year also. We spoke about this, where Mayor Eric Adams didn't say that they were hiding crimes. They said that these crimes weren't properly, the data was not properly brought forth until the following year. And of course, this appears to be completely intentional. The NYPD has by far the most sophisticated data analysis of any police department in the country, and arguably probably the entire world. So the fact that they're not providing the correct data to the FBI is absolutely an indication that it's completely intentional.
Yeah, I mean, and again, it just plays on the narrative for everything. It plays on the entire narrative across the country. Crimes down, crimes down. Chicago mayor is telling Chicago crimes down. LA mayor is telling LA crimes down. Seattle's telling Seattle crimes down, and nobody thinks crimes down. They're lying. They're lying. You know, it was a great title. If those of you haven't read, or I recommend actually listening to the book through Audible or one of those services. Liz Collins, she wrote a book. She is the producer and the writer of The Fall of Minneapolis. She wrote a book, They're Lying, which is about the George Floyd incident from her perspective, being an on-the-ground news reporter who was forced out of her career because her husband was the PBA president for the Minneapolis Police Department. So it's basically a documentary of her own experience from the onset of George Floyd, her experience growing up in Minneapolis, Minnesota, all the way through the George Floyd incident, all the way past it to what transpired. So I highly recommend you guys listen to that, because it really shows what's going on in this country. The politicization of law enforcement is everywhere. It's again, the left moves in lockstep. Bail reform wasn't just in New York City. Discovery reform wasn't just here. Raise the age wasn't just here. The decriminalization of crimes wasn't just here. It took hold across the country, the same way that broken windows took hold across the country and lowered crime. Now, progressives will make the claim that no, there was just a crime drop. It was just, we don't know why. It was just magic. It was like the Care Bears again. Crime dropped. Everyone was like, we're not going to do crime anymore. But no, it was broken windows theory of policing spread throughout departments across the country, spread through police leadership across the country, the same way that this woke DEI movement has spread through police departments and police leadership throughout the country. And that's exactly what you're seeing. And what's happening? Crime's rising, right? Crime, when we actually look at common sense solutions to bringing down crime, crime goes down. When we go to fluff and pretend that cops are Care Bears, crime goes up. So, I mean, it's not hard. It's not hard. It's not hard to look at and see.
There's a great comment here. I don't know if Sal Greco's watching, but if not, great comment for Nighthawk 13666. Shout out to Sal Greco. Listen, when it comes to New York, the buck stops with Adams, period. He's the final boss, and when he's too busy dancing bachata at Sofritos, what you expect. It's true. I sometimes I just say, wait, what is Adams? 62, 63?
62, I believe.
62. I mean, that's pretty. How can you at 60? Let's be honest. How can you 62 years old? We're not making fun. We've gotten flack before. Oh, there's other mayors that go out and party, and you guys always talk about Mayor Eric Adams. Nobody goes out as often as he does. How do you party on a nightly basis till 4 or 5 in the morning, and then actually get up to do your job at 63 years old as the mayor? It's just not happening. It just shows that there's a lack of actually leadership in the city. It's not up, but he's 63. 63 meal. LOL. Yeah. But I mean, just clearly. Also, James LaFranco, I just want to add, but felony crimes reclassified to misdemeanors. That's also definitely an intentional problem that goes on with the police departments. The reclassification of crimes, the intentional calculated steps to actually hide crime without actually fudging the numbers. For instance, when we see juveniles that actually receive juvenile reports for robbery. If an 11-year-old and a 17-year-old receive a juvenile report, that is not getting documented as a robbery. Clearly not. A juvenile is receiving a juvenile report. It's pretty much toilet paper. That's an in-house paperwork just for the youth officer, if they still have youth officers, because it's a diminished police department, to do a follow-up to make sure that these kids don't get in any further trouble. And I don't know how a juvenile report is appropriate anyway when it comes to illegal military age males that do not have a proper address because they reside at the Roosevelt Hotel or another migrant shelter as such. Because according to the policies John and I know, and I'm sure if there's any active cops on here right now, I hope you're using a fake name so you don't have any issues with the upper echelon, Castrone and John Shell themselves. But you have to have a proper address. We need to have the information on your parents to actually, for someone to receive an actual juvenile report. Because when the police department has a youth in their custody, we're in charge of your care and control of a youth. We have to make sure that that you go to a proper home and that you're actually going to your parents and that we have all this information. And if they're not documented, how do we actually have this information? So it's all laughable.
I'll bring it full circle for everybody. A friend of mine was in Lower Manhattan 2 days ago, right? And he sends me this photo. He's like, look, dude, I can't even buy a bottle of soda. The bottle of soda is under lock and key. He goes, and guess what happens when I press the button? Nothing. Nobody comes. He goes, so you can't even buy it, right? So I posted this to social media, and Reza Chowdhury, who I recommended before that you guys follow, he retweets this and he says, listen to this. Despite this, reported retail theft is up 3% year to date in New York City, 8.8% in the precinct south of 60th Street. He's talking about only in Manhattan, right? However, theft does not, well, New York City overall 3%, but he's saying 8.8% in precinct south of 60th Street in Manhattan, right? However, theft does not increase prices because greedy corporations do not pass loss on to consumers, and New York City does not have higher CPI increases, both X housing and Inc. housing. Which he's being totally sarcastic by that. By the way, it does increase prices. But think about this. But is that real, John? Absolutely, that is real. That is my friend sent me this, 100% real. I see him in the mirror right here. Yes, he's a black man, so I guess he associates with racists. So yeah, he sends this to me. He's like, I can't. He's like, this is New York City, but don't worry, crime's down, right? And but think about it. Everything's locked up. Most retail shops don't even call 911 anymore. Because when the NYPD, they don't even do holding ones anymore. They don't come there and lock you up. You know, if it's under $1,000, oh, it's under $1,000. We'll just blame the DA. DA doesn't prosecute. Bragg doesn't prosecute. So we don't do that anymore. You know, we don't do those stuff anymore because nobody prosecutes, right? So they don't even make the collars anymore. So the stores stopped calling. The stores stopped reporting. But yet, even with that, the reported incidences are up 3%. Even with that. So how much stuff is being stolen in New York City every day? I wouldn't even be able to do the calculations. It's probably in the millions every day. There's probably millions in losses every day in stolen goods in New York City.
Yeah, and at this point, it's almost unbearable. It's like, who wants to live in a democratic city in America anymore under these conditions? It's like living in a prison. We talk about land of the free. I mean, think about it. It's a hot summer day. You can't even walk into a store and grab a Coke and just whoosh, open it up and go, it's hot out, and then walk to the counter and pay for it. I mean, those days are over. What an inconvenience that you have to walk into that store, and if you really want to buy a Coke from that store, press the button, wait for someone that doesn't even want to work there to come and bring you that Coke. So it hurts everybody. It hurts the consumer. It hurts the business. It hurts the quality of life. We're turning these cities into a total prison and just making life miserable. I don't even know, honestly, who wants to live in these cities anymore. I mean, thank God, fortunately, we're now in retirement at this point. If we were still working, it would be miserable to have to live in the city at this point. I have no desire. Sometimes the idea of moving back to New York is just nauseating to me. To live under these conditions is horrible. Who wants that? To actually have to stand there for a bottle of Coke. Everyone is inconvenienced. I mean, you see it. Sometimes, unfortunately, even on the West Coast. I'm on the West Coast right now. I have to walk in some of these democratic cities, and it's the same thing. You walk into the store, the security guard is strapped with a body camera. Everything is lock and key in the store. It's just miserable. It feels like a prison. It's like, and we're going back to communism days. It's like you have to wait online for bread. Now you got to wait online for a bottle of Coke. This is exactly what we're doing. We're going right back to old Marxist ideology. Hey, Zumba with Lily. Good morning. She's been a listener quite often. Thank you so much for for always staying with us and being a friend to the podcast.
Yeah, but I can't get over it, dude, because I'm like, wow. I'm like, crime. Everything's under lock and key. Bottle of waters are under lock and key in Lower Manhattan. Nobody's reporting crime. And retail theft is up 3%. And yet John Shell's like, crime's down. Look how great of a job we're doing. This leadership team, I am top brass. And it's like, dude, seriously? So I got to be honest. Like when I come to New York, I'm like, I forget all of the bullshit. because I don't have to deal with it now. Like I go to CVS, I could literally think about this for those of you in New York City and other big cities. You know what I could do? I could walk into my CVS and I could take razor blades that are $50 and bring them to the counter and pay for them. Guess what they give me when I get there? They give me a plastic bag. Ooh, plastic bag. I could even get a straw. I could get a plastic straw if I want. They give me a plastic bag and I walk out of there. When I go to New York, I was in New York last month. Dude, I'm shopping. I put a ton of stuff on the counter. Girl's like, do you need a bag? I have to charge you for paper bags. I was like, yeah. Well, I was like, well, I'm not carrying all of the stuff with my hands. Like, well, of course I need a bag. You know, and I'm like, oh, man, I forgot. Then I go to the gas pump. And like the stupidest thing, but it's so annoying. Like in Florida, I just click this little button and I let the gas run until it runs out, right? Like I don't have to sit there and hold it. But in New York, for some reason, I don't know if gas stations are exploding in New York and they don't do it in New York and Florida, Georgia, Virginia, all the way up until you get to Jersey and New York, but until you get to the communist states, the communist republic but you have to pump your own gas. And I'm like, it's the little things like this that are so big. And the people, when you go visit other places, you're like, why don't I live like this? Same thing of why I moved here. I'm like, wait, I'm not allowed to eat in a restaurant. I have to wear a mask to enter almost every facility. I have to show my private HIPAA medical information to eat, to do anything. I have to do all of this stuff. And then I went to Florida and I'm like, wait, so I walked into a bar. I had no mask on. Dude's wearing an Islanders jersey. He's like, yo, where you from, bro? New York? Takes my hand and I'm like, oh my God. This doesn't happen. The totalitarianism isn't happening everywhere. It's only in New York City, a year and a half past COVID, and it's like, this is why people leave, because of this, because this is politically created. I can't even buy anything. And that's what he said. He left the store. He couldn't even buy. He said he pressed the button 4 times. He's sitting there and nobody came. He's like, all right, I guess he goes like, there's one person working. They're overwhelmed. And he left.
I got to say, I think Corn Pop has the best comment today. She or he, I don't know. It's absolutely right. Because this is so true. This is what I always say. That's not the one. And when they unlock it, they just hand it to you, LOL. That is so true. Think about this. It's on the lock and key. It's like, for me, it seems to be always getting laundry detergent. I always hate, hey, I gotta press for laundry detergent, or even like press for deodorant. And it's almost embarrassing too. You have to like stand there, like guys, like, which one do you want? You're like, I want that one. I mean, you can't like really look at it, right? Because I feel bad. The guys are standing there. I'm looking at it. If that's the one I actually want. But Corn Pop, you nailed it. You stand there. It's lock and key. It's a fortress. And then you got some kid. I don't know about you, John. Most of these kids that walk over, clearly they don't want this job. They're so emasculated. They walk over like, they look like total zombies. And just like Corn Pop said, so you wait all that time, and boom, they just hand you that item. So now you can't run out the store. Miraculously, now you have to pay for it. They're so stupid. I don't see how this does any benefit to the store or the consumer. If I really want to steal it at that point, thank you very much. I got my Coke. I'll walk out the door. And I'll walk right past your security guard with his body camera.
Yeah,
Corn Pop, I'm with you. That is great.
It's the whole thing. It's the same thing with the mask. It's the same thing with the dude was like, you have to wear a mask to come in the restaurant. I was like, where am I sitting? He's like, right there. I was like, so if I put the mask on, I'm okay, but to take it off if I sit right there? He's like, yeah. I'm like, dude, are you gonna seat me or am I leaving? Wouldn't seat me. I was like, all right, I'm leaving. Bye. I'm like, it's so like, and that's the other thing. Now whenever I go to Staten Island, there's so many restaurants I can't eat in because I'll never go back and give them my money. So it's like I'm like, yeah, I'm not going there. I'm not going there. People are like, oh, meet me here. I'm like, no, I'm not going there. I'm not going there. Sorry. Yeah, it's wild, dude. It's the whole thing in New York City is wild, and they're like, everything's fine. Everything's fine. All the businesses are leaving. The cops are leaving. The residents are leaving. Everybody's saying that crime's up, except for the New York City Police Department. The leadership of the New York City, no, everything's fine. Everything's fine. This leadership team is the best. We're gonna replace all the cops with drones. Everything's good. Don't listen to those 2 disgruntled, racist, retired lieutenants. Definitely don't listen to them. We're gonna smear their name with everyone, all the media stations, like we care, right? Because every time I went on mainstream media, what did I say? The truth, right? So the truth comes back around. Truth, everything I said on mainstream media was 100% correct and will remain correct. Eric Adams is a problem. I think someone said that Eric Adams is going to get reelected. He would get reelected if he didn't get indicted. But he's going to get indicted, and you're going to see Cuomo throw his name in the hat. And I think Cuomo is going to overwhelmingly take all the support. And unfortunately, I think Andrew Cuomo is going to win the election. I do think, as I'm no Andrew Cuomo fan, but I do think he'd be a better mayor than Eric Adams is. Eric Adams is the most corrupt mayor in New York City. He is also, on top of being the most corrupt mayor in New York City, he is the largest failure as mayor in New York City. He surpassed Bill de Blasio's 8 years in his first 4 months. So he is by far the worst mayor in New York City history. But if all of that didn't happen, if he didn't get indicted, so Juju, sorry, you're probably going to be looking for a job too soon, my friend. But if that didn't happen, I agree with you. I think he would get reelected because people in New York City are just that stupid or just that apathetic.
I thought that racism means prejudice, discrimination, or antagonism by an individual, community, or institution against a person or people on the basis of their membership in a particular racial or ethnic group, typically one that is minority or marginalized. But apparently, telling the truth is racist. I'm looking for the part where it says telling the truth is racist. I can't find it yet. I was hoping Juju could help us find it. Juju put a funny comment here. I think this is hysterical. Imagine leaving New York City could never be me. Be more like Juju and less like John and Eric, who ran from New York City and New York State. Wow, this is very self-serving, Juju. I do believe that Juju 10452 is one and the same with some other fake monikers that are on social media right now. And you know what I'm talking about. And you know, it's okay. And you know what, Juju, honestly, Juju or all these other fake monikers, don't you just want to come out of class and tell us who you are? You could listen, if you don't feel comfortable on this podcast, you could FaceTime me on Instagram or anything on social media. I'll give you my personal number. Just ask All Cops Are Woke, unless All Cops Are Woke is yourself. I try to FaceTime All Cops Are Woke numerous times, and they deleted their number. So, hey, that's my response to fake attacks. Anyway, Marlon, brother, good comment here. So the fact that crime is up is bad news for him. Hence, they lie and distort the numbers. You're absolutely right, brother. Marlon is absolutely right. Marlon always talks about globalism. And these Democratic mayors are part of this globalist idea. If you watch these mayors of Democratic cities in this country, they move in lockstep together. The mayor of Chicago and the mayor of Los Angeles, and of course Eric Adams, they mirror each other, and they've all taken the same path. There's no clear dichotomy anymore amongst these Democratic cities like we would see in the past. Think about it, John. They're all falling under their woke leadership from George Soros and other different type of funding that's going on right now. I think that Joe, you're right. You think Juju is Kazadudu? Yeah, we're pretty confident. I'm sure it's either Kaz or John Shell. It's probably not John Shell because it's early in the morning. It's probably the super right now for hanging out in the Salty Dog all night. But absolutely. And I think that's what's really going on is this globalist ideology, and these Democrats are all playing on the same level playing field, working for George Soros and other people of that facet. And this all comes down to one ideology. It's a Marxist ideology. Keep the Democrats in power. Allow them to keep making money in the stock market. That's what this comes down to. It's the money and how the Democrats benefit in power, and they benefit in money, and they both are interchangeable, and they both equal the same.
So this comes out from the House Judiciary GOP, who I'm not a fan of, but whatever. Mark Zuckerberg just admitted three things. Mark Zuckerberg wrote a letter to Congress, right? He admitted three things. The Biden-Harris administration pressured Facebook to censor Americans. We had no idea. I'm still getting censored today, by the way. Like, I'm still being censored today, right? So is Eric. We just got blasted on Instagram. We've been throttled on Instagram and forever. We've been throttled on this platform on X. We've been throttled on YouTube, all this stuff. So, whoa, big news, guys. Big news. A day late and $1 short, right? We already knew that. 2, Facebook censored Americans. No shit, Sherlock. Where were you when we were all getting banned? Where were you? 3, Facebook throttled the Hunter Biden laptop story. And then they write, big win for free speech. My question is, how is this a win? And what the fuck are you doing about it? What are you going to do about it? How is this a win for free speech? Oh, I just did it now. But now that, now that it looks like they're going to lose, I'm going to button up to you and play nice. I'm going to button up and play nice to you guys, and I'm going to try to get back some conservative support because it looks like Donald Trump's going to win this presidency. But what are you doing to prevent this from happening in the future, House GOP Judiciary Committee? What are we doing?
Well, that response that you just said, John, I think that's what this comes down to. Right? Exactly. We see the Democrats buttoning up to the Republicans right now because they're pretty confident that Trump is a front runner, and most likely he will win the presidency. So at this point, they're buttoning up, they're preparing themselves so that they don't lose face completely and that they don't lose money and power. This all comes down to money and power, everything. And that's why, listen, whether you're a fan of Elon Musk or not, sometimes you have to give the guy credit because he puts himself in positions that really could put him in a position to lose money. And some people, oh, he's so rich, he can't lose money. Yes, he can. Anybody is capable to lose money, and he could actually put himself where he loses a substantial amount of money. And not only that, there's lives of people that depend on Elon Musk, and that's their business. And we also depend on Elon Musk because he owns X, and we have this social media platform. So, and of course, Mark Zuckerberg, one of the most intelligent people in the entire world, for him to say that he didn't know is absolutely ridiculous. That's more gaslighting. Again,
he didn't say he didn't know. He just said that he did it.
Right. Well, that too. Yeah. You're 100% right. But
yeah, he just said, yeah, he just admitted that he did it. It's like, okay, so what are you doing about it? So, and that's like, that's my
thing. The whole point. Where's the win?
There is no win. It's like, oh yeah, these companies could do this to you, and we're not going to do a damn thing about it, but we're going to tell you about it 3 years later. It's like, oh wow, oh thanks, and by the way, it's still happening today. It's still happening today. Today, I have notifications from my Facebook, from my Instagram. I'm demonetized. I'm this. I'm that. I'm that. Why? Because one, we promoted a post where Trump was speaking. Trump said something. They said it was misinformation. So I can't post anything from a former president of the United States. It's misinformation. So my account gets flagged for misinformation. So it all get demonetized. They throttle the account so nobody sees it. I get people all the time calling me. They're like, oh, I love your show, but I never see you on Instagram or Twitter or Facebook. And even Elon Musk. I'm not going to sit here. Listen, Elon Musk is definitely the X is definitely the better of all the three platforms, but I won't say it's a completely free speech platform. It's definitely not an absolutist free speach platform. I mean, where's Derek Gibson? Where's Derek Gibson? He just got thrown over X. Where is he? Where is he? He's gone. I thought Elon Musk was great, And even this, again, we have 300 people in here. Again, how many people are on X? I don't know. I can't see right now how many people on X. Probably about 200 people in X, right? But if I just tweeted hi, I would have 2,500 views like this, right? 2,500 views like this. But whenever we post these things, we'll get 300 views and 256 of the people will be watching. And it's like, you're telling me we're not throttled? You're telling me there's no algorithm holding us back there? Like, I don't believe it. I don't believe it for a second. So like all of these platforms need to get all of these algorithms to push posts forward. It's honestly complete censorship. I watched an interview a long time ago with the dude that did, he was, I'm going to kill his name right now. But the dude that did, he was like a funny guy, Israeli guy. He did Boris and he did something else. I can't think of who he is, but he's a comedian. And he made those funny videos where he dressed up and he was like, oh, my wife, my sister, number one prostitute in all of Kazakhstan. Borat. There it is. So the guy that created it, and he was basically saying, and my friend sent it to me, and he's like, oh, yeah, this is so true. And what he was saying in the interview is he's saying, well, you're seeing everything from a censored lens anyway. So in order for us to stop that, we have to censor it. And I'm like, no, what you need to do is stop sending things through a censored lens and let Americans work on free speech. If you are providing a public forum where Americans have the right to go on and converse in a town hall setting, you cannot stop that speech. Now, if they commit a crime with that speech, by all means. If you're threatening violence, if you're harassing people, if you're doing things of this nature, it's crimes. But if you're just expressing your opinion as an American, why are there algorithms boosting certain accounts ahead and shutting other algorithms back? I mean, I could show you, you could look at my Twitter now, right? I think I have 9,400 followers. And the reason I know exactly, and I probably have less than that now, the reason I know that is because the last few days, I would go from 9,332 to 9,400, and it would fall right back down. And then it would go to 9,400 again, it would fall right back down. And then it would go to 9,400 again, it would fall back down. And it continues to do that. And then what you'll see is at some point, it'll hit 9,400 and go over it. And then it's like free. And then I'll get like another 100, 200 followers. And then it'll stop again. And it'll do the same thing. It's not organic. It's not organic at all. There is throttling of all of this. So it's like, it really is. It really is at this point. I'm going to say again, there is no other side. There's the progressive lights and there's the progressives. They're going to move you progressively at a much slower pace, the Republicans, but you're going to move ahead into this whole cryptocurrency, high surveillance state. Because it's absolutely ridiculous what's going on. To show us a letter 3 years later that we all said 3 years ago and say this is a win, you're out of your mind.
It's funny, right? That's what we normally hear from the Republicans also. Oh, this is a win. That's a win. And all it was a proposal. I think that's important that we talk about. I talked about it on a podcast called Krav Talk. John, you and I talk about it all the time. Hate speech. What is hate speech? Hate speech is First Amendment speech. There may be speech that you and I don't like. You know what? Don't listen to it. There is a dichotomy between hate speech and actually speech that actually provokes violence. And so there's a complete difference between hate and threats. There's a dichotomy, and we have to know the difference. Hate speech, again, is something that is really new to this country. We've seen it in the past few years. I mean, we even see it in the police department. Part of the discipline, that's pretty funny. Ron Lason put, don't forget he controls your stalling. You got a good point there. But it's important that we really analyze what is hate speech. It's even now in the disciplinary matrix for the NYPD that if you use hate speech, you can be terminated. What is hate speech? What is this hate speech that they say? Because anything could be hate speech. I could just say, you know what? I don't like bald men with gray beards. And that could be hate speech. If you don't like it, don't listen to it. Hate speech is First Amendment speech. We have to protect the hate speech because that's where we lose this country. There are plenty of things that people say anti-Semitic about Jews, and I don't care. I just don't listen to it because it's part of First Amendment speech. Now, if they threaten violence to Jews, I take issue to that. If they threaten violence to myself and to you, just like we got from All Cops Are Woke, that's a problem. If they want to say things, they want to troll us like Juju 10452, it's your right. We entertain it. We welcome it. We won't turn off your comments. We will allow you to do it. It's your First Amendment right, Juju 1042. It's your First Amendment right to call me and John racist. But it's also our First Amendment right to fire back at you also and show that you're a complete liar. But there is a difference between threatening violence. And we have to understand the dichotomy, and we have to allow hate speech. We have to. There may be things that people say that I don't like or you don't like, but we have to allow it. We have to permit it.
So this is the illustrious Tim Walls. Let's bring him up to the stage. Hold on.
There's no guarantee to free speech on misinformation. I think we need to push back on this. There's no guarantee to free speech on misinformation or hate speech, and especially around our democracy. I think we need to push back on this. There's no guarantee to free speech on misinformation or hate speech, and especially around our democracy.
There's no guarantee to free speech around misinformation or hate speech. Who determines what's misinformation? We can see it right here, right? John Schell's telling you crime's down. He's in a position of authority. We're telling you crime's up. and he's lying. Who is being honest, right? Well, I mean, we are, because the NYPD numbers are telling us that crime is actually up 32%. Violent crime is actually up 32% since the Eric Adams administration took over. So it's actually, we are being honest, but John Schell is in the position of authority. So under Tim Walz's United States of America, we don't have a right to misinformation, because ultimately the authority will dictate what is misinformation. The authority will dictate what is hate speech. You know, Eric Adams saying the whole cracker thing is fine, but us making a meme about it is illegal. So again, that is why freedom of speech is of the utmost importance. There is no hate speech. There is no misinformation. There's what's the true, and there's what's not true. What's true is crime is up. What's not true is crime is down and Eric Adams is doing a great job. That is not true whatsoever. But this is what Democrats are going to vote for. This is not America. This is unconstitutional. Even if this man wins, this basis alone of this statement alone voids his seat as the president, as the vice president of the United States. Voids his seat. He's going to swear an oath to uphold the Constitution of the United States of America, which includes the First Amendment. And he's sitting here telling you that he's going to violate your First Amendment rights.
First of all, he's a complete bozo. And what's a crime is how he lies about his military service. And he does it, and he he continues to double down on it. You know, it's absolutely ridiculous. It's this guy is a complete bozo. Again, I think it's so important. Like I said, I went on a podcast. Anybody has the option to check it out on Spotify. It's strictly on audio. My buddy has a podcast called Krav Talk. His name is Sahi Shemesh. He actually comes from Israel, trained under the founder. His name is Iri Lichman of Krav Maga. Great guy. He writes a lot of great blogs, talks a lot about self-defense. And what's important to him also, you know, he was part of IDF, Israeli Defense Forces, protecting Jewish people, and talks a lot about hate speech and First Amendment speech. And he and I tend to disagree when it comes to hate speech about certain things that are said towards Jews. I said, I don't like it. I'm Jewish myself, and I don't like the anti-Semitic rhetoric that I hear, but I have to tolerate it because I have to understand that it's a bigger picture here. And we can't shut down hate speech, because if we shut down hate speech, we shut down this country, and we turn this country into something unrecognizable. And these third world countries that live under Marxist and communist ideology that they run from to come here is what we become. We're becoming countries that people run from. So we're going to start running from America and going somewhere else. That's what it's going to come down to. We will no longer have the best country in the world. I mean, think about these kids in World War II, how they fought to get to the military. They changed their name. They changed their age so that they get in the military. We had back in World War II, John, I don't know if you know this, but back in World War II, there were plenty of men that were committing suicide because they were determined 4F. So when you go for your physical and your ASVAB to determine if you're eligible for military service, if you qualify and the code is considered 4F, means you're not qualified for military service. They were killing themselves. That was the men that we had back then that supported this country, that were supporting First Amendment, that were supporting the U.S. Constitution. They wanted to be Americans. And now we have people that are tearing down the best generation that fought for this country. And if it wasn't for a generation like that, we would speak in another language. And then we have people like this complete idiot bozo that want to turn this country into a complete 180. It's unrecognizable, and you will no longer have free speech. When we start crossing over and we cross over hate speech into First Amendment speech and vice versa, there's no more dichotomy, and the lines are completely blurred. It's now a totalitarian society, and that's what Marlon, you and I talk about all the time, Marlon, if you're still here, is that globalist ideology really is cross-referenced to totalitarian society. That's what's going on right here.
Well, it's basically what it's doing is just removing the United States Constitution, which it's nobody signed up for this, and it's circumventing your freedoms as an American, it's circumventing your vote and all of these other things, and putting you under under rules and regulations that you have no say in whatsoever. Back to the, no taxation without representation. So Daniel, I think you're a little confused, my friend. First Amendment only applies to government censorship, not your podcast or frankly X. People seem to constantly misunderstand that. So Daniel, if you rewind this video, I just showed you that Facebook caved into pressure from the government to censor their platform. This is government censorship. The censorship on these platforms is pressure from the government. So I think you're confused about that, my friend. Again, this is free speech. If you're going to label yourself as a free speech platform, if you're going to say that you're the town hall of ideas, I have the right to exercise my opinion. I have the right to not be politically persecuted, right? Could you deny me business because you're a private entity? Yes, you could. Yes, you could. And then you are not a free speech platform. That's fine. Just admit it. Just admit it then. Just admit it. Don't tell anyone you're a free speech advocate and you're a free speech platform. So, and I think at this point, what we see is platforms like YouTube and X and Facebook have a conglomerate. They own the space. They own the media space. They're getting Megyn Kelly. I just saw something. Megyn Kelly's podcast is getting more views than CNBC or CBS or whatever. I forget, whatever platform, a national media platform. Her one podcast is getting more views. So now if they shut her down because they don't like her ideas that she politically presented, that's political persecution coming directly from our own government, from pressure from our own government, because they want to align with ever parties in power. So I'm going to say right now, that's a direct attack on free speech. At this point, X, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, they're bigger than the companies themselves. They're not small little private companies. They are a public forum. They should be treated as such. And what we see that even in public forums, we're seeing that free speech isn't welcome.
Absolutely. I think we have to protect our First Amendment rights. Absolutely. And I totally disagree with what you're saying, Daniel, here. Absolutely. These platforms are supposed to fall under the Constitution. This is not work related. They're supposed to be exactly what John said. That's why you have X Spaces, things like that. It's a virtual town hall where you should express your ideas, express your ideology. This should be a free, open space. If there's threats of violence, absolutely. Those should be condemned, and people of that sort should be banned. And they need a better method to decipher through. But actual hate speech should be allowed and permitted because it falls under First Amendment speech. And if we don't like it and we can't tolerate it, then we don't have to listen to it. That's the whole ideology of having people that you could follow, who you could unfollow. You could determine who you want to communicate with and who you want to block, unless you're a public figure. And you have to tolerate First Amendment speech, because First Amendment speech allows room for criticism. Criticism is so important that we actually get to the truth. So we actually have the real ideology of what's going on with politics, and politics of who serves the people and the people who actually vote the politics. So it's an important message. And if we start to suppressed that actual First Amendment speech on these platforms, we now shorten and we make the country smaller, and we start to control people. And that's what this is about. When you have censorship, you have control. And social media has broadened the world, has broadened the information change. That's why they want to censor, because they want to control the messaging, control the information that actually gets out from this country to other countries, and control the communication. Think about that. That's what's so important right here.
So, and then I'm going to bring in this real quick, little off topic. And I know we've been going on this free speech thing, but I think it's important because look at this. This is a public forum. There is no way in hell that anyone could say that you do not have free speech to speak to your elected public servants. There's no way in hell. She could get up there, say what she wants according to our Constitution, right? According to our Constitution, she has the right to peacefully assemble and exercise a right to free speech, right? She's peacefully assembling. She could get up there and say whatever she wants. And we see who's the guy. I love him. I think he's absolutely hysterical. Alex Stein, the town hall terror. You see him go up there and he does it. And what he's doing is he's showing them that half the time he's gibberish and he's singing, but it's hysterical. I love it anyway. But he's just showing that you have the right to free speech. Now, here's a mother talking to her mayor. Our mayor isn't at a town hall meeting. I wish he was, because then I would be attending consistently. But he's not. So here we go.
Are numerous public records requests that I have open right now that are, quote, pending legal review that I am entitled to request.
I've got to interrupt you here because.
Okay, are you going to stop the timer?
This is the public meeting forum that you agree to when you speak. And I want to read this to you, that there are oral communications during the city council meeting may not be used to lodge charges or complaints against any employee of the city or members of the body, regardless of whether such person is identified in the presentation by the name or by any other reference that tends to identify him or her.
That's all fine, well and good, but that's a violation of my First Amendment rights.
So that's, well, this is your warning, okay?
Warning for what?
A warning for attacking the city attorney personally.
This is all factual information.
It doesn't matter.
You're violating my First Amendment rights.
This is what you agreed to when you first speaking. This is the form.
It is unconstitutional, Mayor Hall.
Well, it's not unconstitutional.
It is.
And if you're
the Supreme Court has upheld. I could get up here and I could swear at you for 3 straight minutes, and it is protected speech by the Supreme Court. It is.
No, you can't.
Why don't you look at case law?
No, you can't.
I can.
So if you want to be
also the chair is engaged in debate. So
do you
point
want
of
to be
order.
escorted out of here? Do you want to be escorted out
You're
of here?
violating my First Amendment rights.
Talking.
You are violating my First Amendment rights.
That's your opinion.
It's not a matter of opinion.
Do you want to be escorted out, Ms. Massey? Because that's what's going to happen. And it's going to happen in the future also. Anytime you attack.
That's why you changed the rules.
Or any.
That's why you changed the rules.
This has been on the back of this form.
I understand, Mayor Hall, but that is completely unconstitutional.
No, it's
You're
not.
Also engaging in debate, and so you should actually be yielding the floor to somebody else managing.
Chief, could you have somebody come down here and escort Ms. Massey out?
Really, is that necessary?
Yes, I think it is.
In front of my 10-year-old daughter, you're going to escort me out for expressing my First Amendment rights.
She can go with you.
I'm not leaving.
Well.
I'm expressing my first. Do not touch me. Do not put your hands on me.
You just step out with me.
Do not put your hands on me.
Come on out.
Do not put your hands on me.
Come out with me now before you get arrested. You understand?
Are you detaining me?
Yes.
Why am I being detained? Under what charges? Under what charges?
Okay, so
I have personal property. Hold on. You cannot touch me.
Yeah, I know. She can go out there. Okay. I'll entertain a motion to go into E-session.
Motion to go into E-session.
Unreal. Absolutely unreal. So that's America. Does that look like America to you people? Doesn't look like it to me.
That's disgusting. Is this the America that we want to live in? Is this society we don't want to, that we want to breed? That we can't have an open, free space where she could actually express her opinions in opposition? You're the mayor. You're supposed to serve the people, not her serve you. You're not some type of king. Again, what did I say right before you put that video? It comes down to a totalitarian society. It comes down to controlling your speech. It comes down to controlling your information highway by weak, inept leadership. And that's what we see on that dais right now. Weak, inept leadership in all facets of this country, in law enforcement, in politics. It's tyrannical. That's absolutely disgusting that they did that. And she was right. You're doing this in front of my daughter. You're trying to emasculate her, embarrass her in front of her children. You're showing them that they live in a society. We're indoctrinating your children right now to see that we're living in a society where the Constitution no longer holds any weight, and that you live in some type of dictatorship, and she can't express her opinion. I mean, he stopped her. She was about 5 words into her sentence, and he stopped her right away. That was absolutely ridiculous. That's not the America that we want to live in. That's not the America that I strapped on my uniform, the United States Marine Corps, to serve in combat for. That's not the America that you want to live in. And guess what? We are both retired lieutenants. We are both law enforcement, and we did not swear under our oath. Unlike some people, they swear omerta. We swore an oath to the Constitution, support and uphold the Constitution. And that We are not for that. I am for the First Amendment. John's for the First Amendment. We're for the Second Amendment. We are for the Constitution. That is not America. I can't even recognize what that was.
That was absolutely disgusting. And that's exactly what is happening amongst these platforms. And again, Daniel, the other thing about this podcast is the government is trying to censor it. Who runs the New York City Police Department? That is the government, right? So when the government is sending out racist smear campaigns against this podcast, it is the government trying to censor us, right? It is the government trying to put the boot on our neck and tell us that we're not allowed to exercise our freedom of speech the same way this mayor just did to this mother who was peacefully addressing her concerns that she had, and it sounded like valid concerns that she put in Freedom of Information FOIA Act request that she was entitled to get, and she wasn't receiving any of them back. So I mean that's one. That's the whole thing. And then the other problem is this: the cops at this point, the rank and file of the cops, they have to start being men, and they have to let not only the politicians know, but their bosses know that there's certain lines I'm not crossing. You could ask me to do whatever you want. You could tell me to do whatever you want. But the minute you tell me to violate the law, I'm not doing that. That is not a law, by the way. That is not a law. What she was 1,000% right. What he was reading out was nonsense. Complete, utter nonsense. Oh, and I get it. Don't put cops in the position where they have to make this scenario. But we're in the position. We're in the position. And look, let's bring up the leadership. Let's talk about the leaders. This guy could be Kaz Daughtry. This guy could be John Schell. This guy could be Dermot Shea. This guy could be anybody. I'm going to bring him up to the stage, and then I'd like to get your thoughts, Eric, on this guy. This is what leadership in the police departments across this country looks like today.
Please welcome Genesee County, Michigan Sheriff Chris Swanson.
My job is to protect people, all people. In 2020, righteous anger spilled over into the streets of Flint, Michigan. One bad decision from either side, and there would have been bloodshed. But that didn't happen. We laid down our riot gear, and we embraced the community, and instead of hate, we chose hope. On January 6th, the opposite occurred. That day was paved with division, deceit, and denigration. Police officers were attacked that day. It could have been stopped. We need a leader who will embody what's affixed to all three sides of my sheriff patrol cars: protect, serve, and unify. Kamala Harris is that leader. As a prosecutor, Kamala Harris protected us by putting violent criminals and sex offenders behind bars. If I was in a courtroom, she's exactly the tough prosecutor that I'd want to see. As vice president, she served America by keeping us safer. And I can testify firsthand, where I come from, crime is down and police funding is up. As president, Kamala Harris will unify our country. She will bring us together because our country needs a leader who will go toe-to-toe with drug cartels and bullies. One who has already taken the oath, raised her right hand to advocate for the people. I can tell you in 2020, we were able to turn a protest into a peaceful movement by walking together. One city, one community, and one country. America, let's walk. Let's walk. Let's walk together and let's elect Kamala Harris and turn hate into hope yet again. Thank you.
Im Franco summed it up. That dude is full of shit. He's bought and sold by the Democrats. I can't even believe that he's actually wearing that uniform. Let's first of all just talk about Flint, Michigan, a complete shithole. They suffered from a water problem for years. People are dying over there, getting sick because the water is completely tainted. They've had a problem for years, and it actually affected crime also. Crime is substantially up in Flint, Michigan. It's another Democratic city has suffered from crime throughout this country. He's a complete liar. And what do you also say, John? Exactly what we've been talking about here. Free speech and hate speech. What do you say? And the bullies. And she protected them from the bullies, right? Anybody that says anything in opposition to these woke progressive Democrats is a bully. That's what he's talking about right there. A complete liar. I can't believe that this man is actually wearing a uniform supporting law enforcement, but he's absolutely selected and handpicked by these Democrats. Marlon, again, you are on the money, brother. You and I talk about it. I'm glad we both agree. This is all part of the globalism ideology. Him, Mayor Eric Adams, despite the fact that Adams wants to tell you it's only black men that are critiqued from Democratic mayors. It's black and whites who play this woke progressive ideology. It's law enforcement like this that has been handpicked from these Democratic cities because they're useful idiots and they play the game and they play pretend. Look at that smile. He's walking away because he knows this guy could be John Shell. He could be any other fake law enforcement leadership in this Democratic countries because they're playing pretend and they're gaslighting, and it's like a big show, and we're all just watching the circus act.
It's funny though, it's always the same tone, right? Crime's down, funding's up. It's always the same. It's always the same message. Doesn't matter. Michigan. It's always the same message. So I would bring in another video about this dude too. This guy's a pretty interesting character, and this is what Democratic law enforcement looks like. This is what law enforcement in Democratic cities look like. So to the Newsmax anchor who was sitting there saying, you guys are killing it in New York City. No, they're not. They're not. You guys just killed your network is what you did. That's what you did. You showed that your network is full of shit. You showed that your show is full of shit and you don't know how to properly vet people or not be a bootlicker. So you guys became bootlickers. So this is how this sheriff got famous, right? This is why they utilize this guy. Let's go to him. Let's play this video. This is right after the Floyd.
We want to be with y'all for real. So I took my helmet off and laid the batons down. I want to make this a parade, not a protest. Come on. You got little ones here. You got dogs. So what's up? So listen, I'm just telling you, these cops love you. That cop over there hugs people. So you tell us what you need to do. Walk with us. 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 Let's walk with us. Let's walk with us.
Let's all sing Kumbaya. Like, man, the Democrats found their guy. This guy is playing up to them so good. I think it was Marlon or somebody else said he's looking for a big seat in the VIP club. Absolutely. He's working his way up. This is so self-serving. This guy hates himself. He is playing pretend. He is so full of shit. Look, let's be all soft targets. I took my helmet off. I took my batons. How stupid are you? And more gaslighting. He is full of shit. What a clown.
Chris Arnold says he must be Shell's cousin. I mean, honestly, this is what I see, though. This is more glaringly obvious than what he does, because John Shell likes to play like I'm the hardcore cop conservative. I don't go out there and smear sexual assault victims. I don't go out there and smear podcasts. I'm there fighting the law, right? But this is exactly what it is. This is so reminiscent of the knees, of the Marjorie Neal, of all of you cowards and legal that were sergeants at the time that were kneeling. All you people. The only person I respect that kneeled that whole entire time was the lieutenant who kneeled, and I think he's a captain now, and he wrote an apology letter, and he wrote an op-ed in the Post saying that he was wrong, and he apologizes, and he wasn't using his brain, and it actually made the situation more dangerous. So what they don't show you in this video, though, is there's hundreds of cops there. So this coward just does this. It's literally a setup. It's literally a political setup for a show, right? And these people are really just protesting. They're not being violent. They're not burning anything. So, like, what did he do? He just went out there for a camera moment. He didn't ensure public safety. Am I knocking him for going out and trying to interact with the community? No. But when you're biting on a false narrative, right? Because what did he say? Oh, that cop doesn't represent us. That cop doesn't represent us. This is, Chauvin doesn't represent. What are you even answering for? You're in Michigan, dude. You're in Michigan, bro. Listen, I don't know what happened there, whatever it is. But this whole thing, this was like the Kaz Daughtry flag raising. That's what this was. This was the Kaz Daughtry. It was complete, utter gaslighting. And it was done on purpose. It was done on purpose to say, look at me. I want to be on the grand stage. I want to be the Democratic mayor to go along with all of this messaging. Right? Here he is again. Watch this video. Here he is one more time.
Sheriff Christopher Swanson, the sheriff of Genesee County that you just saw there, marching alongside the demonstrators, marching alongside the protester. He joins me now. Sheriff, good morning to you.
Hey, good morning, sir. Thanks for having me.
Sheriff, on Saturday, did you have it in your mind when you got there, as you and your men were getting ready, that you would lay down your helmet, lay down your baton, and march alongside the protesters? Or was that a spontaneous decision?
It was a spontaneous decision, and I'll tell you, with all the police agencies there, Flint Township being the lead for that area, it made the most sense that when I saw the crowd and felt the frustration and the fact that we were only accelerating the issue, it was time to take the helmet off, go to the shot caller, the lead organizer, give him a big old fat hug and say, what do we need to do? And that was the tension breaker. And then the next question was the one that made history.
What was the response from those demonstrators, from those protesters? What did they say to you?
Well, they wanted to know what I thought. And when I looked at the lead organizer and said, listen, that guy is not who cops are. These police officers love you, and we don't accept that. We're horrified. They said the crowd needs to hear it. I said, get the crowd. So when the crowd kind of turned, and they've already had a fist pump with another officer, they already had a hug, they were open to just listening to what we had to say. And when I acknowledged that we don't condone that, that's not who cops are, the second question is, what else do you need? And that's when the crowd shouted, walk with us. And in a second, that turn of events happened when I said, let's walk. And you saw an entire crowd's mindset and heart change because they wanted to be heard. The protesters, had they not listened to the message, we wouldn't be talking, but they were as much a part of that night, making history in Flint, than anybody else. And now we are day 2, no arrests, no fires, no injuries.
Yeah, sure.
You know what's funny about that video? Look at that one idiot, the anchor here with his mask on outside by himself. Looks like a total dope. And look at him with his smile, just gaslighting the public. I'm getting my seat with the Democrats. I'm going to be in power making money. Because there's no way that this guy actually believes the bullshit, that the rhetoric that he's actually putting out to the public. And I feel sorry for the rank and file within his police department that has to suffer and pay the liability for his actions right now. Because if he believes that his actions will actually make the streets safer, it's absolutely ridiculous and it's a complete lie. And if these people are walking with you right now, and if you don't support their message at any point, they will turn on you in a second. He thinks that they're supporting his message so that he can self-serve his own career. They will turn on him in a second.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. I mean, look at that hair, dude, with the frosted tips. And this dude makes my skin crawl, bro. This is the fakest dude ever. He's got hair implants. He's got his tips dyed. He's probably got a neck tuck. He's taken GH out of the roof. This is the fakest dude that smiles fake. His teeth are perfect. Everything about this dude is fake. This dude is definitely boosted. I guarantee if you go back on his tweets, he was thanking everything. Oh, I'm thanking it for the protection. This is the fake. This guy he's honestly, he makes my skin crawl. People like this make my skin crawl, but they're all over. This problem is not just Genesee County. This problem is not just in New York City. This is not just in LA. This is the type of individual that excels in Democratic city police departments. This is the guy that's the chief, the guy that actually has moral integrity, the guy that's a faithful person, believes in God, the guy that has a line that he will not cross, the guy that will not violate law. That guy has no business in police departments across this country anymore. This guy's a reptilian. He's a chameleon, complete, utter liar. And look, it's not just him, dude. It's not just him. It's like, we could go on for days about these people. Watch, I'll bring one more. I got another one here. Where's this guy?
You know what, John? He needs to get himself a job on the Get Stuff Done team in New York City. He'll really thrive there. We need Chris Swanson on the Get Stuff Done team. He'll do really well there. He'll be part of the dream team. And I agree. Sean Shell and Kaz Dorsey make no mistake about it. You might not have the fake hair and be as pretty as him with the nice teeth and he's in shape, but you have the same ideology and you regurgitate the same information, and you're a liar just like he is. And here's another liar right here, a guy who's completely lying about the border. I can't wait to play this video because I've been watching this guy. He is so full of shit, this sheriff. Let's go.
Yeah, this dude, here's another dude, another sheriff that this is also at the DNC, and he's another one. And I'm gonna, after he plays this, I got another one of this guy too. These people are, I'm telling you, they're reptilians. They're demons. They're the worst kind of people. These are the people you do not want enforcing the law. They're lying directly to your face.
When Donald Trump comes down to Texas, stands next to officers in uniforms just like mine, he's not there to help us. Don't think that, not for a second. He is a self-serving man. I mean, look, just like when he killed the border bill, he just made our jobs harder. Now, Kamala, on the other hand, has been fighting border crime for years. She's gone down to Mexico and worked to stop the traffickers. And when the traffickers didn't stop, she put them in jail. Now, down in my neck of the woods, we call that fooling around and finding out. I may be paraphrasing a bit. We protect them. Now, the border sheriffs that I know, right, and we're like Kamala. We protect and serve. We enforce the law. We show compassion. And we fight like hell to protect our border. Because as we've always known in Texas, cuando luchamos, ganamos. When we fight, we win.
First of all, this guy says that Donald Trump is self-serving. He's put himself on the line right now. His financial freedom is on the line right now. His actual freedom is on the line. He's given everything up to be the president right now. He's had a nice life at his age. Why does he need all this? He even got shot in an attempted assassination. So to say that he's self-served and to say that also he was an obstacle for the border bill is a complete lie. It was actually Kamala Harris. Complete lie. And then talk about the open borders and that she's fighting border crime. No, she had numerous interviews where she said that being a legal alien is not a crime, and she will not refer to migrants or illegal aliens as criminals. She even further went on that by saying she never actually went to the border. He just said that she went to Mexico. She said she didn't even go to the border. Lie, 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 lie after lie. And where is this sheriff actually policing? Is he even actually at the border? To my knowledge, I don't even think he's at the border. Another lie.
Well, I think that he is at the border, dude. I don't think he himself is at the border, but I think his guys are. But I'm gonna say right now, I think these guys were paid because the DNC, they were paying. They were paying. If you had a big X account, they would pay you 20 G's just to make one tweet about Kamala. One tweet, and they would give you a full ride to the DNC, eat for free, 5-star hotels, all that good stuff, right? Chris Arnold says this dude's the boss hog of bullshit. Oh, great. That's a good one. But look at this guy. Look, this dude's like Eric. This dude is he's another get stuff done guy. This is another Eric Adams guy. Watch this dude. He literally contradicts himself right here. You want to hear him in a different interview? Let's hear him in a different interview.
I got to check, but I'm pretty sure that he's not even at the border. I remember watching him. I think he's pretty far from it. I gotta find out.
All right, let's watch him in this interview.
Tell us about what you are asking for. What are your needs?
Well, right now, thank you for having me. First off, right now, what I'm asking for is for the president or a member of his administration that can make decisions to come down and talk to not just me, but at least 12 other Texas sheriffs from major counties in the state of Texas that are dealing with this issue firsthand. So I'd like to see somebody from Washington come down here, get boots on the ground, get eyes on the issue at hand, and then talk to us, a bipartisan group of Texas sheriffs that are really taking a common sense approach because we have to.
Tell us about what you are asking for. What are your needs?
So here he is calling for more help, saying that the federal government hasn't been there and he wants to help. You're right. He's not directly on the border, but he's in Texas and they are experiencing it, the worst type of crime.
I'm looking at the map right now, and he's like 200 miles from the border. And Texas is huge.
Yeah,
Was
but
that
200 miles. I mean, he's at, New York City and the rest of the place are thousands of miles from the border, and they're experiencing it. They're still experiencing it firsthand. Texas is seeing a crazy crime rate, crazy high spike in crime and gangs across the city. But here he is calling for more help. He's saying I want them to not just speak to me, to speak to the other sheriffs. And the Biden administration and Kamala Harris, the borders aren't there. So at the same time, he's telling you she did a great job and she's for border security. Here he is on the news calling for more help. These people are chameleons. They will do and say anything.
That's exactly what's going on. That's why I said.
You just muted yourself, dude.
What's that?
You muted yourself.
I got muted. I said, when you put up fake Swanson up there with his fake hair, fake teeth, everything fake about him, I said he's bought and sold. Same thing. This sheriff here is bought and sold, and they're just completely gaslighting everybody, and they're playing pretend, lying to their people, lying to the public. I don't know how these people get reelected. I hope he doesn't see reelection as a sheriff. You're just completely lying to your people. Here you are saying that you need more federal funding. You need them actually taking charge, being in leadership, and you just praise Kamala Harris, which is a complete lie. Again, more gaslight. And I understand what you're saying. We're all affected by it, right? New York City, I'm sure in this town, they're affected by it. But he gave the impression in that speech that he's right at the border, which he's not. Clearly, he's not right at the border. But it just shows that her policies with these open borders, along with Biden, affects all communities, including his, which is approximately 200 miles. I'm looking right now, about 200 miles from the border. So it shows they're all affected by it. So he can't say she's doing a great job. It's a complete lie. And here is the proof right here to solidify it in the same tone. We have bullshit rhetoric. They're all full of shit. I agree. That was a great comment. He really does look like he belongs in Dukes of Hazzard. And again, Rocco Bisco train, lying to everybody, lying to the public because they're bought and sold. All part of this globalist ideology.
EC said he changed his mind. He's scared of indictment. EC, I'm telling you right now, if you think that Eric Adams got indicted because of anything he said about the border, you're out of your mind. This dude is the most corrupt mayor in New York City. That is not a small claim. That New York City has been ripe with corruption since its inception. The majority of New York City's history, the majority of the NYPD's history is complete, utter systemic corruption. So for us to sit here and tell you that he's the most corrupt mayor in New York City history, he's the most failed mayor in New York City history, that is not a small claim. That is epic. The amount of corruption around this guy, people The things that are going to come out are going to shock you. It's nothing what you're seeing. Things that are going to come out are going to shock you. That's all I'm telling you. That's all I'm going to tell you.
Yeah, listen, at this time, we're about 2 hours and 5 minutes into this. And we have a couple more things to go over here. But before we close out and get to that point, I'd like everybody to like this podcast. If you could repost the podcast out there. And how many people we have at this time?
We got close to 400. We got 392 people in here. So for those of you on X, if you could share it out. For those of you on YouTube, if you could like this, if you could comment, if you could ring the bell to get the notifications, even though it doesn't work on YouTube or on Rumble. If you guys can just do that, we'd appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Boost us to the top of the algorithm. So he is Florida governor, and Florida's having a problem with migrants, and that's why I'm saying, like, anyone in Texas to me could say they're at the border. I don't care if you're in North Texas, you could tell me you're at the border, because even Florida's having an issue with migrants, which Ron DeSantis will never tell you. We'll have illegal immigrants coming in. New York's having every state in this country is having a problem. Every single state. New York is experiencing it the worst. Other than Texas, because they give you everything. It's like, why wouldn't I go there to get $13,000 a month and whatever else I'm being given? So, but here's Ron DeSantis. He does this at the St. Johns County Sheriff Office. This is about a month ago. Listen to what he says here. And I think what you're seeing, you're going to see that people are fleeing states, and he's going to tell you exactly. It's not just cops, by the way, it's residents and businesses. But look what's going on in law enforcement when John Schell's telling you this is the best version of the New York City Police Department, when everyone's telling you everything's fine, morale's up, cops love the job, crime's down, tourism's up, the city's thriving, all this nonsense. Listen to what Ron DeSantis says here.
And 4 or 5 years ago, you started to see movements to defund law enforcement. You saw a lot of attacks waged against law enforcement, and you really saw law enforcement be a job that a lot of people in many of these jurisdictions said, hey, this is a thankless thing. They had dedicated their careers to it, and they had enough, and then they've leave. So we saw that as actually an opportunity for the state of Florida, given our posture was much different. And so a couple years ago, we enacted $5,000 recruitment bonuses for new law enforcement officers. Some of that is recruiting from other states, but also young people that decide to go into the profession in Florida are eligible for it as well. And we've had success in both of those. But if you think about so the total bonus program, I'm going to announce in a second. But, we've had people from 49 different states come to Florida to join law enforcement at the municipal, county, or state level, including more than 400 from 3 states alone. Could you guess them? California, Illinois, and New York. And if you think about what's happened around the country, some of these areas, St. Louis Police Department, all-time low in terms of the number of officers. Chicago, 1,600 fewer officers than they had in January of 2019. Of course, New York City averaging 200 officers leaving the force every month. That's not by accident. They're doing that because they don't have the support of the community. A lot of these politicians weaponize against them. And a lot of the laws are so lax that it gives the criminals the advantage to be able to commit crimes really without major repercussions. And so our bonus program has been successful. In fact, I can say that very soon, because, this stuff happens.
All right, whatever. But you heard him right there. Like, people are fleeing. The other thing, Minneapolis Police Department is down 40%. But you never notice, no one ever, it's not friendly to sit there and attack the police leadership. But the police leadership in all of those places is horrific. They are more guilty than everything else he just named.
Well, that's part of the reason why we're so critical of the upper echelon. I am a firm believer, John, you and I talk about, we both believe that leadership is a valuable source and also could be the source that actually tears down and crumbles law enforcement. We see it throughout the entire country. The law enforcement profession has become a profession is no longer trusted and credible, and people have turned on law enforcement. And it's not because of the rank and file. The rank and file is doing as they're paid and trained to do. They're addressing crime. They're addressing crime more now than ever because they're hit with a substantial amount of crime. In New York City, these young kids are grabbing guns on a daily basis, sometimes 2 and 3 guns from the same team because there's so many illegal firearms that are on these streets. These streets are just irrehensible right now. They're like third world countries. I spoke to a cop the other day. Of course, I'll leave their name anonymous. I spoke to them that they were working at in Queens. Tell me what Roosevelt Avenue looks like. It just looks insane. Talking to people in the community, and they said 10, 15 years ago it wasn't like this, and that it looks like a third world country. And you can see pockets on different corners. One corner was Colombian girls selling themselves. Another corner was Venezuelan girls selling themselves. And just saying how insane the street looks and disgusting and not livable, and just doesn't even look like New York City, unrecognizable. And people are detailed out there constantly, and they're working there to address these insane issues that we're having these democratic cities. And Ron DeSantis is right. He capitalized on what's going on in this country, and instead of trying, of course they're recruiting within Florida, but recruiting police officers that are already trained and have the experience in other cities and bringing them to Florida, and they can understand the democratic policies is actually a smart move. At the same token, it also saves them substantial amount of funds if you bring police officers from other agencies and you give them a $5,000 bonus, and all they have to do is a 2-week course in Florida to actually learn the laws of Florida. And to be a law enforcement agency in Florida is extremely intelligent. And with that being said, it's a good move. And these democratic cities are putting these useful idiots in place so that they can tear down law enforcement. And that's why I have to disagree with someone said earlier about it's the government. The police department is the most tangible form of government. And look where it's being torn down. It's being torn down by these democratic socialists, destroying it. Chris Swanson, whatever his name is, and this other sheriff, they're part of the problem. Not only are they part of the problem, they are the problem. Again, I always say leadership is the ability to manage people below you, but also manage people above you if you're now self-serving. If they weren't self-serving, they would actually stand up to these democratic mayors that are part of this globalist ideology and say, well, I don't stand for it because I have to protect my people and actually serve the public. But instead, they're serving themselves, and they're finding a way to navigate into politics with these Democrats. They see that law enforcement is being torn down by these Democrats, and instead of standing up for it, they've joined the Get Stuff Done team. They've joined these Democratic teams because it serves themselves. Just as we always say, just like I said, Terrence Monahan, who took a knee, is the same guy as this guy, Chris Swanson, as this sheriff. They sold themselves out. They gave up on their rank and file, and they found a way to self-serve and to navigate into the democratic policies and abandon their law enforcement brothers and sisters.
Yeah, absolutely. And you got to think, like he had 400 people alone from 3 states. New York, I mean, he's standing in St. Johns County Sheriff's Office. I know like 4 or 5 guys alone that are there, like from the NYPD. I've been pulled over just for people like, yo, I didn't know you lived here, and it's crazy. Like it's absolutely, it's insane to me. And I spoke with one girl one time, and she was like, I know you. And I was like, everybody knows me. I'm bald and Italian. Like, everybody knows me, and she's like, no, I know you. She's like, you were a lieutenant in the job. And I was like, how'd you know? And she's like, I listen to your podcast. I was like, oh, okay, cool. I was like, where'd you work? So she had like 13 or 14 years on the girl. And I said, why'd you leave? And she said, I was going to eat my gun. I was like, well, how do you feel now? And she's like, I feel great. I have a whole new lease on life. I was like, what? I said, how big is the pay cut? She's like, honestly, it's huge. It's substantial. She's like, but I don't even care. She's like, I'm so happy. I'm so glad I left. I wouldn't go back there if you tripled my salary. And what you see from the police unions or the police representation when they talk about that, and I'll just bring them up just for clarity so people understand what we're talking about for those that are joining us. So what you see is that like people are fleeing jobs like the NYPD, which are very high-paying law enforcement job. It's a very high-paying law enforcement job. And the only thing that the unions could go to is pay and benefits. But even that's not keeping their members. They could raise the pay as high as they want, still not keeping the members. I get a call about every day. Like, I'm not kidding. It's every day or every other day of someone I haven't spoken to since I left the job. And it's like, hey, John, what's up, bro? And I was like, oh, where you been? You know, what's up? Like, I'm leaving. And I know before I even pick up the phone what the call is going to be about. I know already what it's going to be about. Oh, I'm retiring. They want to tell me why they're retiring and all these things. And it's people are leaving and leaving a lot of money on the table by leaving. So it's got to tell you how bad it is. It's got to sit there and tell you how bad the internal pressures the NYPD. So yeah, everyone's going to go on bail reform, on raise the age, on all this other nonsense. The politicians, the hate in the media. I'm going to sit here and say right now, nobody's leaving because of that. They're leaving because you have inept, lying, low integrity people in charge of police departments like John Schell, like Kaz Daughtry, and they're bringing the weight of these people can't even make fun of them or listen to this podcast, or they will be sent to the Bronx, or they will be sent from the Bronx to Staten Island. Whatever it looks like, the weight of the boot will come down on their neck because we have two megalomaniacs running the New York City Police Department. And you have a guy who's supposedly the police commissioner who's nowhere, and everyone knows it. It's an absolute joke for any media to even report him as police commissioner at Caban, or anyone to even call him commissioner at this point. He's nowhere. He's not anywhere.
Yeah, his legacy, he will be the most insignificant police commissioner we've ever seen. I was even talking about the other day with somebody. I said, he is so insignificant, but lately, even more now than ever, you don't see him at all. He's not involved in anything. And it's funny when John Schell and Kaz Daughtry play the game and say, you know, our police commissioner allows us to do this. I mean, it's laughable that they keep playing pretend and they all play this game. Marlon, another good one. It's not only a brain drain, but it's also competence and tax revenue that's fleeing the city. You're absolutely right. That's what we talked about earlier here. It's not just cops that are fleeing New York City for better pastures of law enforcement, but it's all facets. It's people that are leaving for better real estate. We have people that are leaving for better paying jobs, better quality of life, living in New York City and other democratic cities. It really has become a prison. Honestly, go into some of these stores, just like John showed with the bottle of Cokes. It's a prison. Who wants to live like this? I mean, you know, I spent a lot of time in Florida when I retired initially, and I've been all over the place traveling. And I spent a lot of time in Florida and meeting a lot of people. And they're like, how do you live there, especially now? It is a prison. And I'm like, you're absolutely right. You know, getting a breath of fresh air. You know, I know what the country's like. When I was in the Marine Corps, I was all over the country, and I got to experience it being a New York City kid and seeing the comparison. But I didn't appreciate as much as I do now. I really appreciate it right now. And I really understand why people do have such a disdain for New York City and other democratic cities, because when you experience some of these other places in the country and you get a real breath of fresh air, you can understand how these places really violate the Constitution and make life impossible, and it feels un-American. Just like you said, John, you said that Kyle Seraphin says to you, that's not America. Sometimes you have to ask yourself, is it? Because you compare life in Florida, the way some things are, and compared to New York, you have to ask yourself, are these two states in the same country? Because sometimes they feel like they're apart and they're two different worlds.
Joe Mango said Shell will get his 4th star if he becomes head of the Salty Dog. I think he's going to get his 4th star. I think Ed Caban's going to step down. I think that there weren't just people in Eric Adams' campaign that were hit with subpoenas. I think there are people in the New York City Police Department that were hit with federal corruption subpoenas as well. And I think you're going to see a lot of pieces fall across the city. This is pretty interesting, talking about competence, right? Look at this. This is city bikes, right? You see, they are taking over Manhattan. They're all over the place. This is the government doing this to you, right? They're using corporations to flood. These are all parking spots that could have been, right? So now they diminish the amount of spots that you could actually park in and pay. The price of those spots go up. And what are they essentially trying to do? is remove your ability to drive into the city so that Eric Adams and his entourage could drive around free and clear, and the rest of the politicians. What do you see? It's an entire city block, and there's numerous of them. There's one guy. Look at all these bikes. Look how many of them there are. So this comes out from Reza Chowdhury as well. And what he says is growing frustration with city bike mounting. City bicyclists waiting and agony, praying someone will take a bite out to provide the ability to park his bike. It's a good time to remember that city bikes remain unused 95.3% of the time when bike usage is at its heaviest. Think about what I just said there. 95.3% of the time, these bikes are completely unused, just taking up blocks and blocks of city blocks. And that is when people are riding bikes when it's nice out, which 10, 12, probably 9 months of the year in New York, these bikes are unusable. 8 to 9 months of the year, these bikes are unusable. It's too cold. It's too rainy. It is what it is. The weather's garbage in New York. It always was. The climate's garbage in New York. It always was. Like, this is at peak bike usage 95.3% of the times. Nobody uses these cities. And you think people want to live here?
I worked in the Lower East Side, which was pretty much the hub for city bikes, and where city bikes really originated when they started with this pilot program of city bikes that really stemmed from the Lower East Side to Midtown South area. And I can tell you, what I found was that most of these bikes, and that just shows you how the government really doesn't care, and that this ideology is really just to take up parking spots, as John said, it to force you in a position that you have to take bikes or pay for public transportation. And if you're going to park, it's going to cost you far more because of this. Because most of these bikes, like you said, are not even used. And when they are used, they're used by illegal means, because I would find that most of them were stolen. And what was interesting about it is City Bike was getting funding from the government, and they were insured. So they didn't even want us to report it. I mean, sometimes we would actually arrest someone initially when it started to happen, and we would call, and City Bike wasn't even interested. And we would say, hey, we got bike number so-and-so. Do you want to track it with your GPS? And they wouldn't even care. They didn't even care, because they were getting funding and they were getting insured from it, separate from their actual insurance companies, and getting backed by the government for it. So, John, you're absolutely right. This is just a complete ploy, because they don't care. If you drive around the Lower East Side, you'll see that most of these bikes are stolen. They're spray painted by people. They're utilized by perpetrators in the community, and they're not even paid for. All those locking mechanisms, they're all broke. And they're just it's completely a joke.
Yeah, and then here's another article that comes out. Fare evasion surges on New York City buses. 48% of the riders fail to pay. 48%. So you have people just everything's free. Everything's free. Goods are free in New York City. Everything's under lock and key. Price of goods goes up, right? Price goes up. Your shopper user experience goes down. Now buses. Fare evasion surges. 48% don't pay. So only 52% of the people are paying. So what happens? The price of your bus ride's going up, right? The price of your express bus ride's going to go up. What else happens? The quality of the ride that you're going to have drastically decreases, right? Now you're going to have homeless people on the bus. You're going to have people acting mentally ill you're going to have mentally ill people on the bus. You're going to have people that didn't even pay the same fare that you paid on the bus. And that's what's happening. And, we get a lot of frustration from the bus drivers, and they say, what are the cops doing? And I'm saying, my first question is, I'm like, who'd you vote for? Oh, you didn't vote? Oh, you voted Democrat? Oh, okay. Well, that's what the cops are doing. They're doing what you asked them to do, what you voted for, or didn't vote for. They're doing what they're being told to do, which is not do anything. This is what's happening. And what's happening, it's turning regular people against the cops. And that's also a portion of the defund the movement, because we're sitting here and telling you, what are they doing for this? Who's prosecuting it? Is the MTA stopping the bus now and calling 911 like they used to and having the cops come there and arrest people? No. They tell the bus driver, just let them on and keep going. So what's going to happen? This fare evasion is going to surge from 48% of the people not failing to pay to next year, when even more people leave New York City, it'll be 65% of the people fail to pay. And then what's going to happen even further? The quality of your ride will diminish further, and the price of your bus ride will go up even more.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right that it comes down to votership for these policies. And again, it goes back to what we were saying. We're talking about leadership, and the leadership is infected in these democratic cities because they're playing useful idiots for their democratic leadership at the mayoral level, or whatever level is in these democratic cities, depending on their structure of government. And they're placating. And who ultimately pays the liability? Exactly what I've been saying. It's the rank and file. The rank and file is now lost the credibility and the trust of the community, and the community turns on them. They turn on them because they are the most tangible form of government. The police department, the rank and file, the boots on the ground, they are the most tangible form of government, and they're the ones that pay the price, and they pay the liability for this failed leadership. They paid for Chris Swanson, his fake hair and his fake teeth, playing this democratic game to find his way into politics. They paid for people just like that. John Shelkast, Daughtry, you're no different.
Yeah, absolutely. So, listen, I think that was enough for today. We got a lot more stuff. I could do this till tomorrow, because that's how much stuff there is. It's just a never-ending cycle of complete incompetence and insanity. And, so again, what does it come down to? This is all politically created. Make sure you vote for our friend Tom Sullivan. We'll give our closing remarks when we come back. Tom Sullivan is the Republican, Conservative, and Common Sense Party candidate for New York State Assembly District 23. Tom is a financial professional who served simultaneously in the United States Army Reserve for 30 years and has now retired. His district covers Ozone Park, Lindenwold, Howard Beach, Broad Channel, and the Rockaway Peninsula.
Come November, I would empower our law enforcement agencies to go out there and do their job and not put them or their families or their pensions at risk for doing their jobs. We need drastic change in Albany so that we have a say in this matter, and they realize people of New York State will hold them accountable.
The Sullivan family has a legacy of service. Tom served for 30 years protecting and defending the rights of others. Come this November, he has earned your support. This advertisement's paid for by the Friends of Tom Sullivan. Eric, what do you got before we get out of here, bro?
Listen, I think hold on, I'm having issues with this mic today. I think we nailed it home. Absolutely. I think bottom line is that we see that the Democrats have put people in positions by design, and the leadership has crumbled the law enforcement profession. Again, I say it's the most tangible form of government. The boots on the ground, they're the ones that pay the liability. That's why people like myself and yourself, John, we speak out for these cops, because no one's speaking out for them. They're alone right now. They're on an island by themselves. They're not getting support. They're not getting the support that they should get from these unions. The unions are not representing them properly, and they're all left alone right now. And yet some of these Democrats are buttering up and buttoning up to the Republicans because they see Trump as the front runner. So we see politics no longer as actually organic and actually true to the people. It's infected. It's an infectious disease that's going on in this country right now with politics. It's infected the law enforcement profession. And that's why I say at this point, I get calls all the time from young kids. We heard from that young kid who's interested in the police department. He left us a message and asking what he should do. Look for better pastures. Look at Florida. Look at states that are actually going to support law enforcement if you're actually going to this profession. If you're tied to New York City, the only reason I can see at this point that anyone is tied to New York City or any democratic city right now in this country is because you have family there, or you have your job there, or you have real estate and you can't unload it at this time. Other than that, why would you stay in these democratic cities? I will tell you this. I've traveled all over the entire world, in the entire country, with the military and also in retirement. And the beauty, I can tell you, is there's beautiful places out there, not just democratic cities. Open your eyes, open your mind, and experience other places. And with that being said, thank you to the friends and the listeners on this podcast. And thank you so much to the trolls. We appreciate it. Builds an algorithm. Opposition meets opportunity. If you like, again, I'll give you my personal phone number. We could FaceTime. We could speak together. You can come on this podcast. You're welcome. You know, we don't run away. We don't cower away from anybody. The truth is a hard thing to hear, but we're willing to tell you. So stop telling lies about us, and we'll stop telling the truth about you. John, thank you, brother.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, thanks, guys. Thanks for tuning in. We had over 400 people in here today. We appreciate you guys. You know, if you could just help spread the word to build this platform, you know, we're steadily growing each month. It's because of you guys, because of the content you guys send, because of your interaction on the chat. So truly enjoying this in retirement, even though we're met with such nonsense. But, you know, I just want to appreciate everybody. And we'll be back tomorrow, 8:05 live. And we'll see you guys tomorrow.
There's a handful of retired officers that don't live in the state that have a lot to say about the dream team, as I like to call it. All of a sudden, they retire and have a master plan on how to fight crime. But nothing to contribute when they were here. They want to come back and be part of the dream team. What can I say?
Law enforcement professionals dedicate their lives to serving and protecting our community. But who's protecting their financial futures? That's where Laidlaw Blue comes in. Our wealth management platform is specifically designed for the law enforcement community. Laidlaw Blue is a division within Laidlaw Wealth Management, run by retired New York City detective John McDermott. His status as a retired detective uniquely positions him to establish a deep connection between Laidlaw Blue and the law enforcement community. Our platform is easy to use and provides a range of financial services, including investment management, retirement planning, and insurance solutions. With Laidlaw Blue, you can secure your financial future and provide for your loved ones. Our team of experienced financial advisors understands the unique challenges and opportunities that law enforcement professionals face. We're here to help you navigate the complexities of financial planning and achieve your goals. Laidlaw Blue. Secure your financial future today. Book a meeting using the QR code displayed or call us directly on 888-901-BLUE. That's 888-901-BLUE.